and the big kahunas, they'll give you their look about how they feel about those names. But it is 2 o'clock, Joseph. So we shall see you guys. Same bat time, same bat channel. Take it over, big kahunas.
Thank you very much. Bash Brothers in the house. Great midday show. Obviously, we have Fed Minutes coming out here, so we'll listen in, see if anything big comes up. Sometimes it's market moving, oftentimes not a heck of a lot going. And speaking of market moving, like, let's be real, the NASDAQ is decidedly not moving today. This is sometimes when you get holiday shortened week. There's individual names that are moving. We'll get to all of that for sure, but let's be real. The same range that we're sitting in the morning on the NASDAQ, 20,920, call it 21,000. There has been absolutely no budging past this range. So you got to respect it. And if the market's not moving, you got to find what is. What's headed back into the lows here is Tesla. I've just kind of marked off the pre-market low at about 338 and a half. So watch out for this. Tesla, it was looking pretty good. I was actually starting to get a little bit excited that it could hold above 345 for a minute and was going to look for that push again, 45 to 47. Instead, Tesla decided, no, that level is going to be a short, Neil. So forget about you and your desire for Tesla to ramp to 350 today. We don't care. We're going higher regardless. So a bit of a move there. You have Bitcoin back into the 92,000 range as that kind of pull back nastily. And some of the other names, yeah, I had a short on Mara. I let that short way too early. But some of those names pulling back precipitously here. So Mara, another name which was trending really high, trending strongly, looking like it was going to break back out, and you're right back into some of these lows. So you got to find what's moving. Crypto names moving, small cap moving. GameStop is making some moves. Just not a heck of a lot going crazy here today, except for Rivian, Randy. Rivian's moving.
Yeah, no, I'm not seeing anything too crazy. There are definitely some good trades on deck today, yeah, a lot of trends happening. I'm looking at Google here just now. I just pulled it up. A strong trend, bit of a range trend happening on Google. We know that people in the chat were talking about MSTR. Neil just mentioned a little bit of a pullback on some of those crypto names. Beautiful reversion there on Mara after it made its high of day as well. I did trade a little bit of Amazon over the midday session. Nothing too crazy though. Pretty much flat on that. Ticker, but decision making could have been a little bit better, and that would have made I would say the biggest difference there. But a lot of these chips still trading near their lows. We can see that SMH. You pull up SMH. It's we were talking about strong selling in the morning session, and now this is very reflective of how a lot of these other chip names are looking right now. Still near the lows of days, trading 240 at the low here on SMH. So I'm not really seeing anything too much. Again, Google, if Google decides to break a little bit of its trend, I'm going to have eyes on that. We know that small caps are definitely moving around. We know that we had some MSOS news. We know that that Zena is moving around as well. The Zena Tech. I know Neil was taking a look at it right here. Right now, Neil, it's doing that. It did that triple top. So I guess it's doing what we were kind of looking at it to do. And it's looking like that 1050 is holding as a bit of resistance there. But let's see what you guys are interested in with the rundown.
Almost like there was a poll that we.
Welcome, everyone, to the Afternoon Rundown, the show where you decide what we talk about every afternoon. Obi filling in for Sean. We got Neil, the big kahunas locked and loaded, ready to look at the tickers as decided by you. So make sure to join us during that How to Trade midday show and get into the chat. Usually a couple of polls, one at 11 and the other at 11:30. Top couple will make it on to the rundown. Let's have a look by looking at the major averages. The NQ in positive territory, but off the highs, up about 0.5%. Same look for the ES, about 0.44% last time I looked there. The Dow essentially flat, 0.07, and the Russell giving back a little bit today, down 0.6 after making all-time highs. We did just get the Fed minutes. We'll bring you more on that in a second. However, the first ticker, as decided highlighted by you guys. GameStop breaking out. Nice move today, 7%. No specific catalyst on this one, guys, but it's been running as of late.
Yes, sir. And I'll get to that a quick little thing. Just a couple of notes here from FOMC minutes. Many participants saw risk of excessive cooling in job market as having diminished somewhat since the September meeting. So the downside of risks of the job market and economy have diminished. They've anticipated it would likely be appropriate to gradually move to a more neutral stance. Some participants said it might be appropriate in the future to consider resetting the overnight reverse repo rate to the bottom of the Fed funds target range. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think we're getting anything too crazy in here. If I see anything that really stands out, I'll let you guys know. So, yeah, I mean, the market, okay, before we get into GameStop here, this is what the NASDAQ did just now at 2 o'clock. So, nothing. Absolutely nothing. Positively nothing. Now, GameStop, early on, and we talked about this at the lesson of the day, tune in at lunchtime, and I was discussing maybe the reasons why, despite the fact this 30-30 trade being a good one, it should have been obviously a 29.80 breakout, a dip into VWAP early, certainly in here at $29.50. Like, let's be real. I don't care why GameStop is going up. And if you're a trader, you don't necessarily have to care. Watch out, 31.40 could get taken out, and then I'm out of this reload. But there is $29.80. There is $29.80. There is $29.80. That's a triple top going all the way back. You got the middle of the summer, and then you've got the last week, and then you've also got yesterday's high. Then you also have it top at 935 or 36, doesn't matter, at the same level. Like, how much more confluence do you need for a single breakout trade? The answer should be none, but didn't have it anyways. Bought it off here. I did try a reload off the quarter. That was a loser. Took a little breakout. Didn't necessarily love the entry price. It was around 31.75. Buyers keep coming in and tricking me into buying it. Got a dip into this 31.6 level, was able to scalp that out. Then once again, the buyers at the 75 level tricked me into it. Now I'm looking for it to hold in here. That's at 31.40. So if it can revert this trend or slight trend back down, I want to be adding into 31.40. I just feel like there's still some room to go when you zoom out the chart. This little top, about 32.7 to 33. That's where I think the target should be if we can hold on today. But you're already getting a bit of a pullback. I want to see it revert this, maybe start some green in there. But if we can't hold on to this level, I'm just going to jump out and wait for VWAP here on GameStop. Not much has been trending like this and giving you opportunity. So I don't mind taking multiple shots here on GME after already getting it this morning.
Yeah, nice trades there on GME there, Neil. But yeah, no, we seen this name catch a strong bid off of the opening session there, and we've continued to trend higher here, holding that 30.50 mark we were talking about in the morning session, and continuing actually to a day high of 32. So still pretty strong overall on the day. Let's take a look back at it and see where we're sitting and how far we can actually get. I want to take a look at the 3-hour chart real quick, just to see where some of these prices were. So 30, what is that? 29.99. We broke that right off of the open there, and looking back at it, we have some prior highs here at 33.64s, and maybe some highs here around in and around the 30. So we've done well in holding a lot of these resistance turn supports as we've been curling up. You can see that post earnings, a bit of a failure to follow through below this $19 level, and we're starting to take up pretty much over the past few months on increasing volume here on GME, again, after it failed to follow through below this 19 level. Now this 19, I would say the 17.50 to 20 level, give or take a point, has been held quite well by GME since we had that push earlier on this year, again in May and June. Off of those highs, these pullbacks have sustained at this price level, and now we're getting a visit back towards some of those prior levels on expanding volume. Interesting look here on GME. I'm curious to know how much further this will run going into January as well.
Nvidia next on the rundown here, guys. So analyst Ming-Chi Kuo, we know him for releasing updates on Apple with respect to supply chain, chiming in here about Nvidia, basically talking about Vishay, VSH on the NYSE as the real winner here for Nvidia's AI server and RTX 50 supply series chain, giving them a good comment there. Have a look. VSH is the ticker. Separately, yesterday we had this headline, Nvidia unveiling Fugato, an AI tool that transforms sound creation for music, ads, and gaming, guys. Not much of a move today for Nvidia, up 1/3%.
Nvidia or Outvidia? That's the question we have to ask. Before we get to that, just a couple of things happening here. MSTR has gone short sell restricted, down 10%.
Oh boy.
It continues to flush off here, MSTR. So just another fresh low. It just took out 360. I'm seeing Mara bleed down. Coinbase just made a fresh low. I mean, at the same time, like this is, I mean, I don't know that this is related. It just could be an interesting coincidence, but that 3140 lost on GameStop, so maybe it will come into VWAP. But just have a look out. If you're trading some of those crypto names, they are absolutely flushing. Oh no, I did that thing again. Or I hit enter way too fast, and now you have to live with looking at my black chart. So I did have an execution on Nvidia, which would have been this local high break in here. And when it lost this lower high, I got out. Probably should have flipped short, but turned my attention over to Tesla at that moment, which ended up working out for me. It's not on the list, probably not going to talk about it. But Nvidia is still in the penalty box, unfortunately. You know, it's just one of those things where you're going to have to wait around for this to finally catch a bit of a bid. And while we're waiting around for this, let me just hit enter again. It's holding, the good news is holding the 50-period moving average, which is a good sign for trend. So yeah, you failed 150 abjectly, and you're seeing the rotation, obviously some small caps starting to go, the chips not having a good day, even when the rest of the Mag 7 were showing strength earlier. Nvidia was having none of that, none. But you are holding on to 135, so a decent consolidation out to 50 period. And I think we're just in a bottoming phase for Nvidia. And I'm not here to tell you 100% the 135 is going to hold in this 50 period, but we now have day 2. So now it's day 2 of this level holding. Well, if it does it for a third day, I'm still going to try longs off this. Now, it's not setting you up for the dip buy at the open, unfortunately. Like, it's kind of just ramping, and then you got to take the break of the consolidation of the bottom or find something else. It didn't really give you many shots unless you waited in here for a 36. At that point, I'll be thinking 35. So temporarily, I think you're looking to hold the bottom in the 50 period on the daily on Nvidia, maybe do some scalping off of it. And some of these pops, I guess they're just fail breaks until proven otherwise. And the other thing to look at, and look out for on the weekend, I'm going to drop something about AMD. It's my only chance to talk about it. Advanced Micro Devices was, when it starts falling, it's just a little bit more violent than NVIDIA. I know everyone's staring at NVIDIA down, but when this one starts dropping, remember, AMD is not NVIDIA. And when the chips lose the bid, this one loses it pretty fast. So I've got to have this one on watch. The second it couldn't hold on to anything. If you got trapped in a long in this, my question would be, at what point did it even set up a dip buy? Like, you could have a long consolidating off the top, but then, you know, when you get into a consolidation long, you generally speaking have some sort of a stop underneath here, which if you had one, no problems getting out of it. Just watch out. These chips are under a little bit of pressure here. And before we throw to Obi to talk about NVIDIA, IMG, it did. IMG is not finished. It's not finished. This stock, the one that I'm angry about because it did the dollar halt, I was telling Randy about this, dollar halt, dollar hold, Sharif was all over this thing. It's now making a new high. I'm going to throw this one up. I don't want to get rid of GameStop. I'm going to get rid of my NVIDIA, my Rivian level 2. I'm going to have IMG up to see if I can just steal a line from Sharif, weasel my way into a trade here, as I thought this might have headed back for a test of the quarter or VWAP, and instead we're breaking out the high. So IMG is still going. NVIDIA is doing absolutely nothing unless you're holding a short from earlier.
Yeah, man, the chips are getting beaten down, right? We kind of discussed this a little bit earlier, and Nvidia is pretty much doing the same there. 136.5 hold as of right now. You can see that hold came in yesterday as well after a strong sell-off in the morning session there. So beginning of the week, we found some base at 136. We traded lower in the after hours going into the close as well. And in the pre-market, we come right back up and hold that level. Off of the open, you attempt to make a push. You fail to follow through some of this consolidation highs right there. Fail to follow through 139, selling off aggressively once again on the day, but finds a bid on top of this 136 halves again. So yeah, a lot of these tickers looking very similar. We talk about SMH. SMH again down near the low of days there. Now you could argue that Nvidia is holding up better than some of these, as again AMD aggressive selling to the downside. Intel as well to the downside. We'd look at tickers like TSM, that's also coming into the downside. Micron was selling off as well. Caught a bit of a bid coming into 1230, but pulling back into that VWAP as of right now. But yeah, no, that Nvidia, that 136 half, this is going to be interesting if and when we do break down how much further can we go. Again, this thing has been on a bit of a backside move after grabbing that high, all-time high through that 150. We make a high of 152.89. This was last Thursday, and then we come right back in and trade much lower in the following days. So curious to know how much we're going to pull back on Nvidia here off of an all-time high, failure to follow through, which happens to be at 150 as well. Now 136 halves holding as a bit of a base. Let's see how we go going forward.
CrowdStrike reports after the bell today. Great recovery from the summer lows after they had an issue with their software and with the Delta whole debacle there. So we'll keep an eye on that. About 0.25% down on the day. This one does have a bit of a wider expected move. 8.5% is what we're expecting today on CrowdStrike after the bell. And this one is slated to report, according to Earnings Whispers, at around 4 or 5. Make sure to catch that with Neil on the Market Recap Show, guys.
Stick around. We got Brian Shannon. Muted myself because I didn't want you guys to hear me cough. No, CrowdStrike reporting after the bell at 4:05, as Sharif has already mentioned. You're expecting a decent sized move, but let's remember we already saw Palo Alto get to a 52-week high and fail it in front of earnings, pull back off earnings, then have it beat up, down, top, bottom, left, right, center, and all that good stuff, and still pull back. So I think you've got to respect what we've already seen with the other big bad boy in cybersecurity. And if that were to be the case, I mean, you take an 8%, 8.5% move, do some napkin math, get $30 pulling back in, and you've got what already sits as support at 330. So I think that's where I'd be looking at in the aftermarket for a bit of a dip. If they beat top bottom and even guide well, and it goes down anyways, I think the dip buy would be at the 330 level. It's just there's so much chop in here that it's running into. I mean, it's set up so perfectly if it could get bullish enough to break that I'd be all over this thing if we get above $400 tomorrow. But at the end of the day, you've got to be able to trade the price action. We saw what happened with Palo Alto. As far as this afternoon goes, I mean, I just don't see a trade. If anything, it's like rolling over and consolidating off of the bottom. The market's falling. The market just lost some support in here. So we're starting to head to the downside as everything's starting to accelerate. MSTR now down 12%. Tesla just went red on the day. So this is starting to get a little bit nasty. Let's go to Obi and take care of some business. Yikes, Tesla.
Yeah, definitely something in these waters here on the market with that pullback. But trade the pool. Are you ready to put your trading skills to the test? Join us for the Trade the Pool and Trader TV stock trading competition. We've got some exciting prizes lined up, including a massive 160K extra buying power evaluation for the first place. The first 20 places win. The competition kicks off on December 2nd and runs through December 6th, with winners announced on December 9th. This competition is your opportunity to push your limits and see how far your skills can take you. Mark your calendars and click the link in the description. Don't forget, December 2nd through the 6th. Results on the 9th. All right. So yeah, CrowdStrike. Again, yesterday was a big day for CrowdStrike, in my opinion. We had relative volume in the pre-market, and we sold off aggressively for a majority of the day. Only finding a little bit of a bid coming into 1 o'clock, and even then we couldn't really bid up anywhere back to VWAP. only to make some fresh lows going into the last couple of hours of the day as well. So CrowdStrike today, a little bit muted, going sideways there, not really doing as much relative volume as it was in the pre-market, relative to today's pre-market when you compare it to yesterday, but even off of the open, pretty much sideways action, and very range bound as well, highs being at 366s and some of these lows being at 361. We're back near the range low here as of right now on CrowdStrike with only about with under 2 hours left to go on the day.
IBIT, BlackRock's or spot ETF for Bitcoin down decidedly today, about 3% after Bitcoin touched that $100,000 mark. There was this headline today, BlackRock reporting over already $1 billion in trading volume on these for these options on the spot ETF, and we're barely 2 weeks into them being tradable. Separately, there was this headline as well, Goldman Sachs reporting their exposure to Bitcoin ETF growing significantly, an 83% increase from their previous holding filed in 13F in the summer. They're holding about $710 million, with the majority holding IBIT BlackRock shares. They have about $461 million in IBIT, guys.
Yeah, Bitcoin just, just lost a bit of a shelf there here, about 52.33. You're about to take out, well, I mean, potentially, I should say. It's not a guarantee. You're about to potentially take out this opening range bottom. That's going to be at 52.19. You're chilling about 92,000 on Bitcoin in general. This looks like what's going to be a healthy correction, and all roads leading to 90,000. But do think that's very much within the realm of possibility that we're going to get a pullback to 90,000 on Bitcoin. It's been such a good run since the election that you were expecting this to happen. You've clearly broken the steep upward trend, and now you're headed to find some support. So I know I know we're supposed to be talking about IBIT, but just an idea of what this looks like on the BTC chart. I thought we might get a test of 90,000 this week. I've drawn the support line in there because I want to look for some dip buys in some crypto stocks when that's going to be the case. As far as IBIT goes, the good news, as I said, you have not lost the low of the day just yet. If we flat bottom break that, I mean, outside chance if you get like one of those Bitcoin liquidity flushes and it ever happens during market and we do see something losing the bid here and it just gets super, like a real big acceleration on a couple of candles, I love reversions in Bitcoin. So if we were to see it lose this 52, and just go real heavy the way MicroStrategy's just went, I'd be looking down at 51 and at 50 and trying to find some support for a quick little snapback trade like what you had yesterday at the open. Get like a really heavy move down, and I would look for a mean reversion. But I think it needs to break the low to set something like that up so you get a little more acceleration to the downside, then you can set off a bit of a reversion. Just before we throw over to Obi, I wanted to point out that IMG opened back up. It opened lower, it opened, but it didn't open higher. It opened lower, managed to hold on to view up. It's diddling in the middle, so either we get in, bounce off VWAP, which is a distinct possibility the way it's selling here, or it's going to have to hold a higher low and break out the top. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I have it on board. I'd rather not take a break, and it's going to halt. Yeah, it's actually going to halt to the downside. This one might be done. Yeah, halting to the downside now, IMG. Guess it's not going to make that bounce off 150 after all.
Nice. Yeah, no, IBIT definitely looking like a bit of a backside move here in the morning session. We talk about this bit of a trend that existed here. Now, again, you can probably go further back and be like, there's a bigger picture trend. Yeah, of course, there's a little bit of a bigger picture trend on this ticker, but this one has been significantly clean over the past couple of weeks. Again, coming in from what is this? This action's on Friday, November 15th. You can see that support. The support finally cracks and then confluences with that Bitcoin pulling back off of that 99,000 as well. And yeah, I think 90s are well within range. I think 80s, mid to low 80s are definitely well within range on Bitcoin while it winds up for that 100K push if and when we get there. But you can see that selling has come in quite aggressively in and around, what is that, 11:45. You can see that this is a 15-minute candle. So selling kind of starts after some of the higher volume bars on the day after the push up all the way into 54s, a bit of a failure to follow through of 54s, and we come right back down. And now, right now, we're pretty much contesting opening range lows, pre-market lows sitting at 52.04s. We're trading at 52.28s. Yeah, it's definitely important to keep an eye on Bitcoin as IBIT pretty much reflects the action of Bitcoin. You can see kind of a similar V-shape action here that happened on Bitcoin, back up a retest of that trend. The same trend line I have on IBIT, I have on Bitcoin, and you can see how beautifully it respected it. We got some extension off of the trend. We pull back into the trend yesterday and look like we're maybe holding, but not really. We come back, break through, and now we're using that support as resistance. So can we take a bit of a pullback? I think so. I think that, yeah, you just got to look back at it and see, yeah, exactly. So you got to see where we found support on prior days. You can see that there was some support 88s, maybe some support on 87s, and then ultimately supports on 85s. That's why I really think that if we pull back and go a little bit sideways, the range is definitely all the way down into 85 for this push. Now we're using that support as a bit of resistance as well. So let's see what we have in store going into a shortened week on Bitcoin, but that backside looking quite nice.
Oh, there it is. I was waiting for you.
Yeah, I knew it was coming too. All right, guys, 0.25% in the green as Palantir. There's really no specific catalyst on this one today, but Danny Ives did chime in about his $75 price target on Palantir. Touched 66 today, basically saying the market is undervaluing Palantir still, despite the fact that it's up multiple fold in the last month or so, likening it to Oracle, basically saying it's going to catch a tailwind with AI. Like in this one, defending his position, $75 price target, guys.
Also remember, Palantir now a member of it's now in the NASDAQ. So for anybody I made that mistake this morning when I first went to pull it up. I typed in NY because it's just pure muscle memory. But yeah, a little bit of I hate using the term healthy pullback, but yeah, a little bit of a dip there on Palantir. It's flat, which is more than I can say for a lot of names that have just turned red a couple of seconds ago. But you did fail or pull back off a recent 52-week high. So just want to show the daily chart that you're trending back into the upside. I think I had this one. And I think sometimes, we're guilty, and I'm guilty of this oftentimes. Like, if I look at what's made me a little bit more consistent the last couple of months, it has been, taking my shots with a little bit, sometimes tight stops, but hard stops nonetheless. And it has me getting away from trades that I probably need to be giving a little bit wider berth to. Like, this doesn't break prior high when it loses the day-long uptrend. Like, there's your trend, supports all those wicks, close underneath, there's your short. Got to be willing to give it back in. That's obviously, I've seen time and time again, this is a setup that's been working very well for myself lately, and it just got to still be in this one on Palantir. That said, it's a little bit stronger than everything else. You just saw the NASDAQ roll over. It'd be nice to see it get above VWAP. This would be a name that I would favor. I'd favor it to the long side if we could catch a little pep in our step, but I'm not feeling like that's going to be the case. Like, you just saw so many things rinse out that I don't know that I want to be jumping into longs unless they set up like a parabolic move down and a mean revert that I play to the other side. I don't know if I'd call this a parabolic move down. Like what we just saw, like the trend down in Mars is a little bit more extreme. I was just pointing that one out. Or MSTR but I don't want any piece of that. So Palantir, if we can get to VWAP, might have a little bit of a trade in it here. But I just think it's a healthy pullback off of the highs. You be careful, it's a holiday shortened week. But sometimes high-flying stocks, and when you look at it on a weekly, we've seen, I hate the term black swan because it gets overused, I feel. But when you get a lower liquidity week, you can see some decent dips in stocks that have been running really big. Because if they start to lose a bid, you have a few less dip buyers that would normally be in there making a market. So you have to be a little bit careful. That probably applies more to all the Bitcoin and crypto-related names that are losing the bid than something like a Palantir, the AI names, but it's still gonna be in the pocket to watch out for this and be careful. Always trade with a stop. I think that's especially true during holiday shortened weeks like we have in here. But I need to get above 65 VWAP, and then we can think about it for any kind of a long. MSTR, by the way, that thing broke 350. Yikes.
Yeah, definitely. That thing I'm pretty sure has a lot more room to go in terms of a pullback on MSTR. That first red day really coming in hot and heavy there. But yeah, no, Palantir's been doing quite well, man. These are, I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, these are all-time highs here at 67.88s. We're trading 64.90s right now. Beautiful, beautiful breakout through that 45 we had just a few weeks ago there on Palantir, and we go down to a shorter time frame and see what it's been doing since then. We've been pretty much pushing up. That breakout was aggressive, came in the next day, strong relative volume there, some of the most relative volume and some of the strongest volume bars there as well. You can see this volume bar here off of the open on that day, very, very strong, and we've been holding since then. So again, I'm going to do something that I like to do with volume bars, and this should already be on my Palantir chart. But let's throw up an anchored off of that, and you can see kind of well, all right, pretty much what we expected. It only hits it on the first day, and we've been hovering over it since then. So it's been doing well. 67's all-time highs were tested just prior day there yesterday, and we've been taking a bit of a pullback since then. But today, sideways action hasn't really done much, man. We've only traded within the opening range. Right away, a trade that does stand out to me is a failure to follow through of the opening range high or the day high right here. You can see prior highs sitting at 65.82. And this high, 65.85. So you only got 3 pennies past that day's high before you broke this trend back down. So you can see that was a beautiful, beautiful reversion. And we're coming in even much lower now, Neil. And the volume's not looking too hot either. We've been only decreasing volume after that morning push towards those highs. And yeah, Palantir, sideways action, but definitely gave you some opportunity for the backside there off a failure to follow through. It even gave you an opportunity for the long when it grabbed some of these pre-market lows off the open and then pushed for a pre-market high break and extension into 65s, but couldn't quite get to yesterday's glory all the way up to all-time high 67.88. So Palantir, that's the look on Palantir. I don't really have anything else going on as of right now. In a bit of a Google short, so we'll see how that one goes. We know that we just got some, what were they, FOMC minutes?
FOMC minutes, yeah.
Yeah, FOMC minutes that came out at 2 o'clock. And the market was a little indecisive. Before that, we saw that it was very, very, very choppy. And then FOMC comes out. We go in a certain direction. I like that direction. I actually got in on the sticker at 206 because I'm like, yeah, I'm aware that FOMC is coming out. Google has been trending pretty much all day. The spider's been trending as well. NQ just been holding a bit of a range there, and I like that break of that trend on Alphabet. So let's see if the market pulling back can bring us all the way back into VWAP and maybe even more. Opening range highs sitting on top of 169s. We're trading 169.30s there. Trend break happens in and around 169.50s, 60s. The 60s would have been a better price. I got 52s. And again, always looking for a potential place to add, but it's not always going to give it to you is what I'm realizing. It's like, all right, well, some of the best entries are your initial ones. If you don't have everything you want, well, good luck. That's all you got. Just take the trade. That's what I'm learning.
Hey, was there sound on that? I didn't hear the sound on that.
Oh, was there some? It's a trap. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, that was a trap, and you would have seen me in and out of Mara because I was looking at this and looking for a mean revert trade, and we're talking about that for Bitcoin. So this is MSTR, and it just put in this bounce back through 350. So the second I saw that, like I already had this trend line up on Mara, I flipped over, it set it up. There's the entry long, there's the bottom break. So we end up getting stopped out of that one. I don't mind taking some pot shots in here at that low, but you just want to make sure you're not completely bleeding. Watch, the next thing that's going to happen is it's going to hold the higher low off of this level. I'm going to hate myself over it. But the other thing that I should point out is we were waiting around for VWAP on GME. It's VWAP adjacent. But whoops, I zoomed out too far here. But it is holding, and it's kind of hard to see, but 3080 This was where it dipped into when it tested that double top high. And I know, because I was in it, that stunk, and this 3080 is starting to hold on. If it can now hold this, make a bit of a channel back to the upside, it will look a little bit better for GameStop. Although you have to remember, some of the rally in GameStop has been tied to all of this crypto nonsense. What I would like to think is a potential runner that has nothing to do with this crypto nonsense is whatever the heck IMG is. I kid. IMG, whatever, CIMG is the name of the company. It actually does bounce off VWAP. After halting down, it's now re-holding the 150 level. So this could still be a double top break. Remember, this is a halt high. So you've got the top here at 172, you've got the halt high at 180. I like this one. It's now reestablishing back above the 150 level. The downside to trading IMG is it's so cheap, 10% moves are nothing on this. And if you don't want to get trapped in a halt trade when you're trading something like this stock, well, your stops end up being relatively tight, or you're just willing to hold it through a halt. You've got to make that decision. I would rather trade this with tighter stops. If I take a breakout trade, I got to be willing to stop it out underneath like a 168. And then as it goes up, I'm constantly moving my stop out to make sure that I don't get caught in a trail into a halt down. You have to watch out for something like this. If you want to hold from halt to halt, that's up to you. But it's done like 75 million shares worth of volume. I don't mind getting out and trying to get back in at some kind of a different level. So I think you're still attempting to catch a bid in some of the crypto names. The market's catching a bid. MSTR still going down. But I do like the look of this holding on to VWAP IMG. Let's see if it can make this top break. 177 at the high.
Yeah, people in the chat talking about Amazon. Amazon catching a bit of an aggressive bid here on those 206s. Neil, we talked about this 206 area being very peculiar, not only in the morning session, the midday session as well, as that level came in. Bit of a reserve, so a lot of volume, a lot of action happening here in and around that 206 mark. And we attempt to pull back, can't really get past below that 206. Now we're catching a bid kind of back up, almost back at 207s, 206.80s trading on Amazon right now. I don't know if there's any sort of, I guess, news that's bringing this bid in. I think it's just a regular kind of a push up off of that 206. Again, that 206 showing itself a little bit earlier there with that reserve. That I guess keeps on coming back. It was there in the morning session. It was there in the midday session as well a couple of times. We did trade below it and over it, but whenever that price kind of came in, it was, I guess, holding on the bid before it wasn't, and then reclaim again. It seems like that 206 continues to hold as of right now, but I don't know what the next trade is as of right now. So I'm going to take a look at some of these names. Oh boy, we talk about some of that a hold on 136 halves on Nvidia, and this volume
Still
coming in.
holding.
No, it's not. It broke below, so we went to 3570s here on Nvidia. Prior day, what is that? Is that in the after hours? It seems like that is in the. I guess that's exactly the 4 p.m. candle there. We made a low of 135.40s. Today's low 135.67 as of right now. So. You got to keep eyes on that one, Nvidia. But I think the morning session brought most of the volatility and the move, and it was much nicer there. We got this one, VC. Oh boy, why didn't VC this one in the morning, Neil? Because this one was pretty dope. Kind of pushes off of that too. But take a look at this. Fails to follow through back below 180 and Rip City. Not only that, I'm curious to know how clean this breakout was, and how clean this breakout was, and how clean this opening range breakout was as well. On the pullback, you hold beautifully there. I guess opening range breakout would be all the way down here, under $2. This is a 3-minute chart, so if you're using a 3-minute opening range, but you know what? I know a lot of people like to use 5-minute opening range breaks. So right there, there's your 5-minute opening range break at 207. Makes a low of 201. So on a $2 ticker, you would have had to risk about roughly 10 pennies, 7 to 10 pennies to be relatively safe on this push up, and it gives you it gives you pretty much a 1.5 off of that $2, trading all the way up to 354. So a bit of a missed opportunity on my part, it would seem. But yeah, no, where's the next trade? Is it on SMCI? Chips are down on the day. We were trading near lows and nothing's really catching a bid. We see that Nvidia is a prime example of that. We were talking about that holding 136 halves, and that gets broken as well. Again, that action coming in a little bit later off of the FOMC reports there on the day. Xena, we know that Neil has been involved in this one a little bit today, but holding a bit of a triple top here at that 10.5 mark is interesting. We had some interesting action as well in the pre-market. We ran up yesterday aggressively, all the way from $2 to what is this, $8.50 in the after hours, right after the close. They're coming in off of the 4 a.m. open. We have a bit of an exhaustive move, which kind of rejects right off of the open with sellers coming in and halting down. And Neil and I were talking about this one. I was like, all right, well, if you're risking that halt down price, you can see that every time it did kind of get into that area, we sold off a little aggressively. But something to note is that some support on top of the 8 and that some support on top of 9 as of right now. So let's see if some of that continues to happen. Rivian, again, a great ticker for the opening drive flush right off of the open, and maybe you like the reversion as well. I know that Neil took a chunk of the reversion in the morning session, so that was absolutely beautiful there, coming right into prior day's lows and then rebidding over 50% of the day's action on Rivian there. Mara as well, again, with the crypto names. This was the reversion I was talking about, and I think Neil definitely had a piece of this reversion. And it was absolutely beautiful. Not only does it come back into VWAP, but into and through VWAP with VWAP rejections. That is absolutely beautiful. And we're trading much lower right now, 25 at 22s here on Mara.
Before I get to a couple of things, the thing about that, Marlon, this is something we discussed.
That was good.
If your reason to get in to something is like a trend reversion, which, I mean, this is the steep trend, and obviously, look, you can draw a trend, like, it tries to break trend, like it's a really steep trend, tries to break trend here. But I like to look at things from when something changes, which is here, like when it breaks the high, I like to look at that. And it broke this trend, I get into it, you gotta be able to give it back into the top. Or, if you're scalping, and I did the lesson of the day, and then I decided I wanted to get up and, to be honest, I wanted to get up and go to the bathroom. I didn't have a decent reason why I should move my trail. At the point when I made that decision, it had just flushed another 20 pennies in the money and really looked like it was screaming down to VWAP. I had take profits down in here around VWAP, anticipating that, yeah, this is now good. Instead of waiting for it to make this breakdown under the prior high and then put the trailing stop in, I just assumed that it was going to happen, got up, threw the bids in there, and had a trailing stop into here. Sloppy. I get trailed out, I come back, I sit back down to see that I've been trailed out, and now it's holding underneath right tight to VWAP. So obviously it was a little bit frustrating for me here, and not the best, not the proudest moment there on Mara. It's a good entry, and we just talk about like taking trades at setup. So I was willing to take the mean revert the other way. I'm just gonna go over to IMG for a quick little second. So IMG holds the higher low, and Daniel, I know you're asking about the Reddit. I'll get to Reddit. Certainly, that chart on the 60 minutes not going to go anywhere. I promised I would answer your question about that. But higher low here on IMG, holds the 150, stair steps it up, dips into 155, holds 160, grabs 61s. Now keep in mind, every 10% this thing can hold. So that means every time it goes into a resistance within 10%, I'm taking something out. And I'm going to keep my stops relatively tight. Loses 155, I'm out. If it breaks here, I tighten my stop up to here. If it breaks the high of the day, I tighten my stop up to 170. That's what it's all about, trading something like this. I don't want to be caught in a halt trade in this particular name, so I'm going to keep it a little bit tight to the vest. But taking care of some business, our good friends over at VinFast have some exciting news for you. An electrifying story of 2024. So hold on to your seats, because VinFast, Vietnam's EV trailblazer, just released its Q3 financial results. Here's why the buzz is real. Q3 deliveries skyrocketed by 115% year over year, with nearly 22,000 EVs delivered. How about revenue? A solid $512 million, up 42% from Q2. Excellent numbers there. VinFast is now Vietnam's undisputed EV champion. After pivoting to a pure EV strategy just 2 years ago, they've zoomed past global brands in the market, growing their retail sales in Vietnam by 159% quarter over quarter and an unbelievable 504% year over year in Q3. What's next? They're not slowing down. With Vietnam as its launch pad, the Vietnamese EV OEM continues to balance growth and cost optimization, and with new funding of $3.5 billion from its founder and parent company, they're set to stay in the fast lane for its global expansion. You want to learn more? Scan the QR code right there on VinFast. And you know what? Sometimes looking at that flying V should just be enough. Well, that was good luck. It's a good-looking car, and nothing was happening on IMG, and then all of a sudden it got to the high of the day. So that was kind of ridiculously lucky. But there's the move. He said we'd scalp it. Now you got the high of the day break. Now I keep trailing this one. It's going into a halt. If it's a fake halt, yeah, it kind of went into the halt band. Did not break higher. Did not break higher. Went into the halt band at 185. I've got my trail now down to 170. Do not want this halting down on me. So we played the higher low, 161. 5 cents worth of risk. We get it to the high of the day break, but now if it loses 170, I'm jumping out. Can't go red on the stock. I don't mind if this one goes to $2. We had a plan of action, play the consolidation where we can get a tight risk, get the move into the high of the day, scalp out at every single point. This out here has to do with the fact that it went to the halt band and came out of it to the downside. So for sure, every single time I'm going to take that one out. And this is what I'd hope to be able to do in the afternoon. When it's a holiday shortened week, and when you have volumes a little bit lower and you have the market not really doing any crazy moves, I want to try and find spots like this. So what we did yesterday, ideally, you guys saw what happened with Xena yesterday. We turned a 30-cent, we turned a stock that was, it gave a 30-cent win on a $5 stock, and then like the second I was out of it, went like $2. But every now and then you just want to find like just winning opportunities where you can get it in good with a reasonable risk to reward, take the profit, move on to the next. And if there isn't anything, don't worry about being patient. That's what I like to do in a week like this, or at least on days like this, going into the close. So hopefully IMG, if you're still in it, I can see reasons why you would be. But when it hits 180, if I leave my stop here, it can halt down on me. And I don't want any part of that. Because this stock, to me, this stock halting down can open up at 140. And that blows your risk to reward out if you're scalping it. If you're buying it and holding it for $2.50 or that massive move, that's one thing to go ahead and risk it back to 140. But like I said, I was never doing that. I was doing a tight stop. And I did promise I was going to get to this because Daniel had a question about Reddit on a 60-minute chart. Is it setting up a head and shoulders? I'm not a chartered market technician. But on the 60-minute, I would wager you're talking about this resistance here at 139 and 139, failed break. There's your oddly shaped head, and now you're breaking underneath 130. But you're just only now doing it. So I would, it's obviously setting this up where that prior resistance turns into local resistance. I would agree with you there. I'd watch, look at it hold this trend. Maybe let it break the trend at 135 because you could easily just bounce off this trend line here, the 200. If it bounces off the 200 period, that's a 135 and it's been respecting it. So for me, that's what I would like more because if it breaks it and you're doing a swing, then you can short underneath the 200 and use the head and shoulders shoulder as your out. Suddenly you've got 5 points there and you've got a heck of a lot of room to the downside. But that's just what I see over there on Reddit. So good luck. And of course, as I said, IMG, I tightened my stop. It could still go. I can always try to find another trade. Remember, I famously got out of Xena yesterday, only to watch that bad boy pump to like $8. We're talking about the aftermarket show. It was this long in here, like the long breakout, the consolidation off the $5 that couldn't break, just sat there for an hour. It just sat there 5 to 5:30, and when it finally broke 5:30, off to the races. Sometimes a scalp trade is a heck of a lot more, but a win's a win.
Yeah, I'm watching this. I'm watching this MSTR, Neil, and the question I'm asking myself is when and where do we get short? I think it definitely provided
everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere is great. I'm selling all the prices. I wish. I wish I had the kind of risk to sell every price there for the past few days. But it's been an interesting move. Again, we talk about the backside move coming in. Again, confluence with Bitcoin pulling back off of some of those highs as well. But a strong reason to sell, it would seem, on prior Thursday off of that bit of a gap up that we got and a flush down, and we've been trading lower since. It's kind of breaking below some of those earnings day one, not earnings day one, catalyst day one lows there as it broke all the way into 370s. Today we actually break that day one low, and a bit of a retest in that 370 gives us a chance to get in for the continuation all the way back down. That's interesting. So that little rebid was over about over 4 points. It would seem for 3 to 4 points right here, from 65 and change all the way to 75, was it 75? 70, 71-ish area. So that 70 area is basically what I'm talking about. Get that nice continuation. 345 is trading now, so a decent flush coming in on MSTR. Shout out to all the swings that are in this ticker. And yeah, I know people are talking about their put positions. People are talking about their short equity positions as well. And this thing has had a nice follow through over the past few days on MSTR, printing even lower here going into the closing session power hour in about 10 minutes, guys. So let us know in the chat. Yes, Sean James saying short MSTR next stop 324. Yeah, man, well within range. I mean, you take a look back at this chart here. We'll go straight up to a daily, and I know a lot of times I don't really use the daily as much as I do, say, like a 3-hour or a 9-hour, which encapsulates both some of the pre-market and after hours action as well. So you can see a bit of a backside move. We've been trending up for a good amount of the past few months. We broke out of this range on the year in and around 200, and then we accelerated with expanding volume into highs. That action was definitely, it smelled like capitulation, man, and capitulation it was, apparently, as we've been pulling back aggressively. So that move through that what is that? That was pretty euphoric, I guess, in terms of that selling that came in aggressively off the open. But a lot of execution opportunities that I'm learning that were there on the day on MSTR. But today, catching more of a sell coming into the downside, 341.30s trading right now on MSTR. Yeah, I guess Chris L talking about should have held my MSTZ. You got to remember there are a few ETFs that do track this, this ticker here. Yeah, no, because of the liquidity, right?
Well, that's a levered one, right? So there's going to be all kinds of decay on any of the levered ones, right? Like, there's certain, like, and again, I feel like this is, maybe Joe's the best person to ask about it, but anytime you're trading a leveraged ETF, you got to be careful with the duration of your swing trades because of the level of decay on the leveraged ETFs. Yes. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit different for day trading and for trading it for, like a couple of days worth of a swing. I think you're absolutely fine. But if you're thinking you're going to hold on to one of the levered ETFs for like a month as it trends, that's just not usually the way you want to go.
Might be a little wild for doing that, but yeah, no, it's been, I guess, it's been quite nice. Was it MSTY? I was trading on Friday. Misty, that was nice. You also have MSTZ, SMST as well. I think SMST, if I'm correct, SMST. Yeah, it defines daily target 2 times short MSTR. So you can see that's been running on the day today as MSTR takes a bit of a fade. So if you're looking at MSTR and you're like, all right, well, this is a bit of an aggressive spread, but I still want to capture some of this move to the downside here. SMST has done almost 32 million volume on the day. Average daily volume is 7.3. It's trading right now currently at 801s, 802s high a day there, and you can see that it's pretty much 2 times short ETF there, with that strength coming in as MSTR pulls back into the downside here for an extended sell-off. I think again, a little bit overextended, and it finally showed us the selling coming in prior week, and we're getting a strong continuation on the day today as well. So let's see what Tesla is up to. Tesla's coming back into some levels here. I really like that 336, 335 area, Neil. Some confluence, I guess. But today we're bouncing off of 336.85, so we haven't even printed those. I guess we did in the pre-market. 4 a.m. candle looking like it had a low of 335.10. It's probably the best price on the day if you're getting long at 4 a.m. But we've only just got back to those prices in the past 45 minutes or so here on Tesla. KSS, we've been talking about that one. I did have trades on it off of the open. Absolutely beautiful price action, extremely telling. I had just a breadcrumb left, and I just gave it to the stop that I had on for this initial trade. Short to the downside, rejecting that 15, rejecting that VWAP or anchored VWAP or whatever you want to call it, rejecting some pre-market levels as well that we're doing decent volume. So we kind of came in off of the open, broke through that $15, got all the way to 14.5, Neil. That was crazy. I actually posted more below the low, never got filled, and then we kind of tick up aggressively all the way back up through that 15, through the day highs, all the way for a high of in and around 15.6s, and now we're finally potentially getting a pullback into 15. But yeah, some decent opportunities there in the morning. Earnings day one. If you look at a lot of these retail names as well, they've been doing pretty good to the downside, if that's what you consider good. And now again, I find it's funny. People are like, "Oh, but it's selling off. How does that look good to you?" You have to remember that as a trader, we don't. It doesn't matter if it's going up or down. Is it moving? And do I have a defined risk that I can go off of? And that's pretty much all that matters.
Unless there's A, no liquidity, B, no locates. Right? Like if you can't go short something, then you need it to go up.
That's no fun.
And if there's no liquidity, then you can't do anything with it. So it's not like a complete. Hey, any stock in any situation, if it's moving, is going to be good. Sometimes you've seen us pull up IPOs that like, hey, look at this IPO. It just came to market. Look at all this action. I'll throw it up there. The spread is like ridiculous. The liquidity, like it's halted 5 times and it hasn't even done 1 million shares and it's halfway through the day. We're like, you can't trade this thing. There's absolutely nothing going on here. IMG's done like 90 million shares, by the way. But it's just next available dip. And again, like all I'm really doing here, it pulls back, gives a couple of red candles or maybe one red candle like last time, catches a bid, go into the long off the consolidation, give it to the prior low. So it does the same thing, pulls back after I got out, starts holding 70, throw the stop under 67. I tried to get 71s, ended up getting 73s in here. But again, scalp into the high of the day, try to hold it if it breaks the high, and then throw some stops or move the trail higher if it continues to go higher. Now GameStop, wow, that did not even think about holding VWAP. Flush. So if we're stair-stepping it down and GME's giving it up, remember, this is breaking out from $29.80. We talked about that level on the daily. You can see it a little bit cleaner as yesterday's high. So I would think that's the spot to look for a little bit of support, maybe even the 30 level. So I think even pulling back into VWAP, you could argue this could go another leg to the downside. I'm keeping eyes on MSTR. If MSTR starts sustaining a trend up, I think some of these other names are gonna maybe hold a bit of a bid and start coming higher. So this is actually doing it again, where it's breaking or attempting to break trend. I only like the shorts if this resumes trend. It's almost like it's a barometer for what's going on in all the flyers and the Bitcoin-related stocks. When it loses the bid, you just kind of want to jump into short on one of them. And right now, VWAP is looking tasty on GME. So we're back into IMG. We'll see if it can get back above the high of the day, and then maybe we can hold it a little bit longer, but still going to go with tight stops on it. In and out, try to be a little bit of a ninja on IMG.
Yeah, so the futures didn't really have any follow through there. So we rejected that 21 thou earlier on today in the morning session. pretty much trade sideways. FOMC minutes come out. We sell off a little aggressively. We break the range lows below that 20,920. We get down to 20,900, and then we catch a bid back into the range there. So as of right now, we're trading back into the range. Let's see if that's selling. The breakdown of that consolidation from pretty much all day since the open. You can see we've been pretty wild, pretty much sideways there. ES not really pulling back as much, but a lot of chop in the pre-market or in the morning session there. That did continue to the upside, so we did hold that 60 thou decently. Again, we bounced off of it in the pre-market session, continuing to kind of trickle up. Going into the last hour of the day there, but the Nasdaq not as I guess trending as the the Nasdaq is not as trending as
Obi,
the ES.
Want to know why you have stops? This is the perfect teaching example.
Yeah,
because here's IMG. Now it looked like
reminds me,
when you have this stop out, you look like a tool. Don't get me wrong. It's frustrating. You make a bottom wick, and then it ends up going back in higher. Like this is going to resume, and it's going to go to $2. But the other side of the coin is if you don't have a stop of that ilk, I got out. We're long at 73. I get out at 68. Or it can halt down on you. And then all of a sudden, if I'm trading without a stop, instead of a 5-cent hit, you're holding on to what's over a 10% out of the money, and who knows where it's going to open up. So again, the cost of doing business to getting stopped out like this every now and then is that you save yourself here. So you've got to pick which lane you're going to be in. If you're a trader that doesn't want to get caught in this move, then sometimes that's going to happen to you. And that's just how it's going to be. So as far as I'm concerned, I'd rather live to fight another day and be up on the stock and really keep things tight, especially when the halt bands are so close to each other. But again, you've got to pick which kind of trader you're going to be and what kind of move. Earlier in the day, that can be the time to shoot a little bit bigger because you've got all session for it to climb from $1 to $1.70. Here you've got 1 hour left if you're a day trader, and I got to be flat by 4 o'clock. I think the tighter stop makes some sense in there. But remember, it's opportunity cost. There's no such thing as a free lunch. You are not going to be able to limit your risk without possibly losing out on some upside. It's completely impossible to do that. You just can't do it. But it's halted down. Yikes. The tap just shifted to 136. So this could absolutely bleed from here if it really were to open underneath VWAP. And if you don't have a stop, you could be covering at 136 and be 20% out of the money. Yuck.
Do you have shares for that?
Locates?
Yeah.
You know what? Oddly enough, I wasn't really looking for a short, so I didn't pay for locates on IMG.
Okay.
But it's in a halt. I gotta go price them out right now. They're probably, I'm gonna guess they're cheap, but I did not check. I did not check.
So costs actually, I guess we can talk about this one there. Off the open, this was quite nice. Again, gapping down, what was it, about an 18% gap down or flush, trading opening 18% lower. Off the open, attempts a bit of a bid and then cracks through that 15. That was nice as well. We kind of got back above that 15 and pushed all the way to 15.6s on a very strong trend, again, off of those lows that were made earlier on in and around 10 o'clock. But you can see we've started to break that trend and pull back in towards VWAP. So a bit of a mistrade on my part. If I really like the short, I got to be re-engaging here in the 1540s, risking above to 60s, maybe even 70s there, or this opening range high at 45 if I'm patient enough. And for a push back down, it's about 60 pennies away from that, trading almost at 15s, 1509s on the bid here on costs. So VWAP sitting in and around 1489. We're only about 20 pennies away from there on cost. Let's see if
you mean Kohl's.
Sorry, yeah, Kohl's. I'm thinking KOSS.
Yeah, the headphone
Kohl's.
company.
Yeah. Koss is the other one that used to run
meme
with
stock.
GME and Funware.
Yeah,
So,
it was a great meme stock. Koss was
beautiful.
It was a really good. Well, I loved it for just every time GameStop would go up.
Yeah, it was delayed.
It was delayed action on costs.
action,
Now
yeah.
it used to do much better volume. Now it's like it's on 390,000 in volume. When it was meme stock craze, this was the one that sometimes you wanted to go on over to, and you'd catch these moves. I remember, and I've told the story before, the day that GameStop famously halted down like 8 or 9 times, it was like I could only go one direction, and people were complaining that they couldn't, they essentially couldn't buy the stock. They could only sell. When it caught a bid that day, I'll never forget, you would hold it down like 7, 8, maybe 9 times, no idea how many, it was a lot on GameStop. When it opened higher and broke back up and it was clear the turn was on, you could punch back. Like after you already saw, and it's obvious that you've missed the bounce on GameStop, that day you could have bought cost back through its pre-market low, no problem. Plenty of liquidity. I remember I flipped the cost. I'm like, oh, this hasn't gone yet? Punch long. It was that VWAP like this. It was like the easiest couple of bucks on a move you could ever make because GameStop had already halted up by the time like you were just getting the move on cost. So I love those sympathy plays. It's not doing it today because cost is junk and no more volume. What? I mean, actually, I used to own a pair of their headphones. Look at MSTR now. Now it's reverting.
Ooh, okay.
This could be, there's no chance Mara's going to give.
I think it will get back. Okay.
See, Mara's trying to make the reversion as well. This is the same trade that we just tried earlier. And I'm kind of looking at something like this. Like now you've got another trend which is trying to hold, and if you connect it, it's trying to close above. So if it closes above, it's the same entry. In this particular case, the bottom would be like 24.90. So if we can close in here, get something off the 25 level, it looks like you're finally breaking trend in MSTR, which is down 12%. Mara is trying to go as well. Well, it did already close, so I should be already in this one off the 10s, I would think. IMG starting to settle down. Like the tap is now 143. So it's only 10% down further than it's looking like it wants to open. So if you happen to be caught in that one, again, I wouldn't trade it without a stop, but it's still looking like it's going to open underneath VWAP. MSTR back above 355 and starting to go. I might wet the beak in the teens here. I don't want to chase too far, though.
Yeah, this Amazon is continuing to be strong. I see some of you guys in the chat pointing it out. Yeah, shout out to, I guess, Ju P pointed it out, and a couple other people a little bit earlier as well. Yeah, third try Amazon saying Miss Lucia as well. So yeah, Amazon almost at day's highs once again. Day high being at 207.78. So we're trading 207 above 207.25s now. Here, attempting to push a little bit higher there. We held that VWAP quite well. I actually had shorts on this thing, man. So let's pull it up and take a look at it here. I kind of chopped it up aggressively on the front side of the move. When the backside did come in, I guess I didn't. I wasn't able to grab a good chunk of it there. But I guess put in some work there on the backside and caught a little piece of it there. So front side shorts, not too happy with some of these here. You can see that sure I'm getting in on the break of the trend, but I need to be getting out aggressively here. I try way too many times. Sure, if you're selling every price, sure, the probability of you getting short at the top becomes much higher if you're willing to short every price. So actually, but the thing that I did well here is I actually had the most when it rejected here and then pulled back in. But Neil and I were talking about this. I get out most of that position as we pull into 206.80s here, short from 207.50s. And yeah, that gave me a great risk, about 20-25 pennies for a pullback in. It goes down a full point. I get more, and I get aggressively more. And I'm like, because I have aggressively more, and it's looking like it's holding a bit of that trend, I actually pieced out of all of it in here, and it flushes further down. Me getting a little bit of FOMO, I get more in. I'm like, all right, well, actually, I'm on the backside of the move now. We've broken that trend. I should have an entry here and be holding on for the reversion to VWAP, but I don't even do that. I'm kind of, I missed this chunk here, get back short, take everything off here, and I'm like, oh boy, it's continuing to go. Get short again aggressively on the lower highs. Thankfully, with the trend is definitely more forgiving than against the trend, and so it comes right back in. Yeah, exactly, right? Funny how that works. Comes in, I cover everything in the 70s and 80s. It actually gets down to VWAP in the 50s, printing a low down in the 20s before holding that VWAP as a little bit of a bid and reverting back to the upside. And that's what I was looking for. I was like, this is hella strong off the morning. It accelerated off of VWAP. VWAP were where the strongest buyers were in the morning session. Even on the pullbacks, you can't get down to VWAP. So where can I expect to find a bid? I don't know. But a place I want to look for it is VWAP, and it comes in right off of VWAP. And the idea was, let's take some inventory down into those buyers that may or may not show up on top of a VWAP and kind of do some buying with them. But I didn't really execute that very well again.
I think Paco in the chat's executed something really well.
What is that?
Paco OR.
Paco.
I'm assuming it's Paco OR. Well, you must have the bottom if you got the, or you're short the living you know what out of MSTR to have a $20 club. But because MSTR just went to 60, so the actual low, like the low is 40. Like you'd have to have 40s into 60s, or you could be covering a short from like, I don't know, literally anywhere. But either way, there is that curl. It did the reversion. I mean, chase is probably the wrong word, but let's be real, I did. I just simply chased more after that had already gone. And when I said wet the beak, like the whole term wet the beak is just, okay, usually, ideally you get into position all in one shot. But every now and then it's like, okay, I want to be in the long, but I'm not getting filled closer to 25. So let me just take like a third or a quarter or something along those lines to wet the beak, to get into position, understanding that this isn't the optimal entry price. I wanted to get a little bit more tighter to the 25 level. But I want to get something in. That's the idea. So if I use that term, that's generally what we mean. But now you're headed towards, I think, 25.60. I don't want to, okay, why 25.60? Why do I have an offer just sitting out there? Well, look, in the morning, once, twice, OB thrice support at $25.60. So if I'm mean reverting and going long something that's trending down, I want to respect major levels of support to turn back into resistance. That's just how I'm rolling. So maybe it's VWAP, but certainly this 25.60 level for sure. And the other thing is, look at how MSTR is already going. This gets to VWAP, it'll already be up here at 70.75 by the time we're getting to 25.60 the way this is going. And I would expect you're going to have a little bit of resistance here on MSTR if you do get to the 70 to 75 level. So just want to complete the thoughts for you on that. Hey, even IMG decides it doesn't want to rinse everybody. It holds VWAP. So if you held it without a tight stop, it ends up bouncing 140 back above VWAP. I'm not touching it. I feel like this might be done unless it can make some kind of a run back into the 175, 180. That could be interesting to look at there. But yeah, I'm just going to keep my eyes on MSTR, make sure that we don't let the trade here in MAR get out of hand. And the other thing I have my eyeballs on is GameStop at VWAP.
Ooh. Oh, yo, that thing broke down.
Yeah, like GameStop really broke down. And remember, the logic for why this was up had only to do with Bitcoin. Bitcoin's still at 92,000. It's not making a huge move. MSTR and these names start rolling back in. I'm thinking about GameStop VWAP short and then rolling back underneath. Look at the support at the 3080. Look at it lose it. If it loses it again, that's a party I don't mind being a part of.
Yeah, I think you always have to consider what kind of party is going on GME and what kind of participants are getting involved, right? A lot of the time I'm thinking it's like, it's just an assumption. And Neil can probably talk about this a little bit more than me, but shorter term participants, right? Those buyers that are there in the morning, they're not looking to hold this for a year, for a couple of weeks. No, they were just trying to, probably intraday traders or whatever. They're looking for an intraday trade, regardless of what kind of trade.
They're looking to get out.
Yeah, exactly. So
you don't know that dude on YouTube.
No. Actually, no. I think I.
My daughter loves. My daughter loves that guy.
Caleb City. Yes.
My daughter.
The superpower interviews. Yeah. I like that.
Erin loves those. Like
He's so funny. He's so funny.
So it's to the point, like my daughter loves that line so much that we'll play. You ever played like, no, of course you haven't, you don't have kids. I'm going to it's a game, it's like a game you play like if you're camping. Like, I'm going to the picnic and I'm bringing, and then you say something and I'll say like apples. And then the last letter of what I say, you have to say something with the first letter. So my daughter is like, she always wants you to say something that ends in a G just so she can drop on you. I'm going to a picnic and I'm bringing get out, and like that's her thing. And then she's like mic drop. So if she gets you with that, it's basically game over because she's just laughing at you for falling for it over and over again. That's fair. Kids are amazing. I'm actually not feeling well, but that puts a real smile on my face because every now and then I know full well exactly what I'm doing, and she thinks she's sneaky, but I'll just say something that ends in a G so she can do it to me, and then the smile that comes on her face, I'm like, you got me, sweetheart. It's amazing. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. There are some other movers happening here, but there was a pullback. Yeah, so anyways, this just happened on MSTR. Like, you've got to be kidding me.
Wow. I mean, you got a piece of it. You still in?
I'm getting that.
out?
I'm getting.
Yeah. Nice.
Hell no.
Nice.
We ain't holding that trade. Like, if MSTR is going to go make this bounce and already pull back $10, and you're right at the same level. Sorry, I just showed you the MSTR chart, but here's what just happened on Mara. Wick high, right into resistance where it failed to last long, and you're getting the same chance to be able to get out. Nah, we'll just take the scalp trade and move on. I'm not looking that gift horse in the mouth. If we're just rolling back into the lows, I'm going over to GameStop and seeing, we're not at VWAP yet, but see if I can weasel into this one to the south side. To steal a term from Sharif. Weasel. Oh, we don't have free locates on GameStop.
I'm curious to know what that movement actually looks like in real life. Like, how does a weasel actually move? I don't know.
Wow.
Movement. Squirmy, says Fabian. Yeah. Like a land eel. Okay. All right.
What the hell?
I don't know.
What's a land eel, dude?
A weasel? I'm. You know what? I always think about.
Did everyone just hear what you just said? When I asked you what a land weasel is, and you just said a weasel on land, or land eel. You said an eel on land. No, you can't. You're not allowed.
Oh boy, definitely some holiday trade.
Answer my question with, but it's an eel on land. Of course, you should know what a land eel is. There's nobody in this chat that knows what a land eel is. And anybody that claims right now, because I guarantee you someone in this chat's gonna be like, I know exactly what he's talking about. No, it's because you went to like ChatGPT or you Googled it or whatever the term it is. You don't actually know what it is. So let's just be real. Yeah, exactly. He's making up animals. I agree with you, Rivian Millionaire. Fabian was making up an animal for his own amusement, but I still want to short GameStop. But I had to pay for locates. They were 0.00025.
People in the chat saying a land eel is just a snake. That's straight facts. Let's be real. Yeah.
That's keeping it. Bang's the best one I can do because that's just, if I had a coastline, props it up. That I can get down with.
Yeah.
See? Yeah. Got a great chat.
There you go. Chat knows what's up. Exactly. Bears versus Bulls is exactly right. Chat definitely wins.
Chat always wins.
But Cristobal saying weasels on a plane. Nice. I like that one.
If I could, I would, but if I say it, we get demonetized, I think. I don't really know how that works. I don't know if you can, but I'm not going to. The thing is,
you always try to push the envelope until,
No, I'm not going to. I'm not saying.
I'm joking.
I wouldn't.
Trading sideways here. Nothing is really happening. I feel like, I guess, like MSTR, parties happening on MSTR, backside on GME.
Yeah.
Goggle's not really doing anything. I was looking for a pullback into VWAP, but it's taken forever, and it's 3:17, guys. We have less than, I guess, about, what is it, 43 minutes left. Oh, boy.
How about this one here?
Which one?
Will Bitcoin hold 90,000 this week?
Oh, over the week. So you mean, will it hold above?
Yeah, hold above 90,000.
Through Thanksgiving. Yeah, I'm down for that. Let's see what you're.
Oh, you've got to be kidding me! I can't make this up. Look what it says.
Oh, that's beautiful.
What were we just talking about, Stinks, on the plane? What I wouldn't say?
Yeah.
No, close the door.
Shout out to Powell.
So we're not holding 90,000 to close according to the Magic 8 Ball. Shout out to you, Mr. Westermeyer, for sending that to us. But it literally was, it's cosmically, the universe wants me to cuss on this stream, and I'm not going to do it.
This one?
Not going to do it. Wow.
Oh, no, it's like, I guess it doesn't. Oh,
no, it's hard. We can never.
Gone. It's changed.
It's the angle. Yeah. That's the problem. Like, we can never really show you the result of the Magic 8 Ball.
Oh, what's coming in?
Well, actually, you know what? You got like 8 million cameras here. We probably could do some magic with that one over there and maybe zoom it in. I've seen Zoom do crazy.
Joe Werner saying 100K by Friday.
Look, man, as long as we hold 90,000, I think it's a healthy pullback. It made a ton of sense that you got the push to 100K and we get some kind of a pullback. So 90,000 is the level I'm looking to try to hold. Oscarito Do you think this slow-moving market is because of Thanksgiving? So, anyway, oh, by the way, I recently celebrated my 10-year anniversary with my lovely wife. Shout out to her. She doesn't watch, so I don't wish her on the show because she doesn't usually watch the show. Sometimes she does, but I knew she wasn't on her anniversary. Now, why did I get married at this time of year? So that I could have gone, I'm not making this up, although my wife was on board with this, so that I could go on my honeymoon during Thanksgiving week 10 years ago, so that you're missing less trading action. I'm being dead, and traders do this.
Yeah, of course. Your life revolves around trading.
Yeah, and she was all on board because she actually wanted, like the location we went down in Niagara-on-the-Lake, she wanted something that time of year. She actually loved the idea of there, even if there was a little bit of snow on the ground, which I have West Indians coming, they're like, huh? But they were cool with it. But no, absolutely, it does have to do with this. I would argue that even more so, like, it's in the U.S., I'm not American, but Thanksgiving, Black Friday, like it's like the biggest holiday. Like it's as big as Christmas. It just in terms of the impact that it has to people getting together with family, people traveling. It's the biggest travel day of the year, I think, is the Sunday. You guys can fact check me on that, but it's just so gigantic that of course that's going to bleed into the market and market activity. There's no question about it. So that's why every single trade you see me this afternoon, it's like get in, get out, don't mess with it. You see Mara rolling back into the bottom because why not? And it's like that IMG trade. You just try to I almost said stick in it. Like I said, just get in, find your spots, find a good entry, tight stop, take your move, get in, get out. And I think that's the approach that I always have, especially in the afternoon. You're going to see that tomorrow. At the open, you still have a little more price action. You can still do your normal stuff, but especially at the end of the day when it gets late. I'm not going to force any trades in here. I mean, I could have. Well, I mean, if we just got look at this whole 150 in VWAP. Okay, as I'm saying, I shouldn't have forced any trades. That's actually a pretty solid setup to have gone long 154 in here and maybe just given it to this prior low. That's hindsight talking. Now I'm going to change the subject because I should have taken that long in IMG, and you guys can all now see that live. That was silly. If you're scalp trading this to the long side, that's a long entry in here. But anyways, I'm just going to change the subject because I should have had that. Where did I meet my wife? At university. We both ran track at the University of Waterloo. She was a 400-meter runner. I was a sprinter. What did you just say, Fabian? She's tracked, and then she did triathlons later on because now she's the athlete. I'm the old man. But what else we got going on in here? Mara reversion, yuckity yuck. GameStop's not at VWAP. MSTR. Wow. Forget about it. This is the bid just keeps losing and losing and losing. Yeah, this one's just not done, everybody. It's just not done. Thank you, area pages. Appreciate that. Nick W. Yes, University of Waterloo is in Canada. This is where I'm gonna say something nice about the school that I went to and then take the caveat that obviously I went to the University of Waterloo. It's like the MIT of Canada. I'm not making that up. It's like the computer science engineering school. Not that I went to school for that. I actually went to school for accounting because in a West Indian household, you grow up. It's like become a professional. My dad was an engineer, so I'm like, I'm not doing that. And then I hate science. I don't hate science, but I don't like biology, so I was never going to be a doctor. So I'm like, I'm going to be a lawyer and accountant. Well, I'm good with numbers and I like business. So that meant I'm going to be an accountant. So it was the best school for accounting, so that's where I went. After 1 year talking to some upper class students and actually having a job doing inventory reconciliation at a company, I was like, there is no way in you-know-what that I want to be an accountant. I cannot do this. I cannot go through that grind. I'm going to kill myself. That's extreme. There's no way I wanted to be I just didn't want to do it. So I transferred to economics, knew that I wanted something a little bit more free, and then absolutely lucked into trading. Because I graduated with an economics degree and not necessarily wanted to working at a bank. And then Sean was at on the trading floor here, and we went for a beer one time watching a Leafs game, playoff game, and he was just talking about what he was doing. I was like, I want to take a shot. It's like, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And 20-something years later, I'm still here. So, of course, IMG. Yeah, and then the tap, by the way, the tap is lower. check that. I thought the tap was up here. I misread that. I thought the tap was at the high of the day. It's actually indicating an open lower. Sorry if someone got excited about me saying that. No, it's tapping 169 here on IMG. And Scott Edwards says same degree economics. I loved economics. The other thing I really loved about it was I found a lot of the exams, like if you had an intuitive understanding of it, I could always reason my way to an answer. Depending on how much I may or may not have studied for some of the tests. But that's what I loved about it. Like if you have an intuitive sense of what you're learning, I always found that I could apply myself in those classes. You should always study. No, just study properly and don't do that.
Yeah, I think effective studying is a very solid skill to pick up on.
I agree.
But yeah, no, you're only gonna develop that skill if you I would say if you've kind of grinded out some of those school years. Yeah, no, I don't remember what was yeah, no, I guess the last classes I remember the studying was absolutely crazy. Again,
yeah, but you were
you know what I studied before, and it'd pretty much be like your whole life. You're like you wake up, you study, you go to classes, lunchtime you study. After classes, you go to the gym, and while you're at the gym, you probably have something in your ears, and you're also probably studying. And then you go home, and then you study some more, and then you go to bed. And then dinner, lunch, breakfast, you're probably reading a book or doing something.
I had more of a, let's put it this way.
The grind can get pretty unreal.
You get to have fun if you're studying economics in university.
Really?
Now, if you are, let's just say, I'm going to throw something out there like, I don't know, medicine or engineering, you're probably going to have to hunker down a little bit more, kids.
Yeah.
But also, shout out to DELL for the super chat, and he wants to shout out his CPA peers, accountants in the chat. I'm not making this up. I have a buddy who we're going to be, well, I think just to start in January, we're doing, he's not watching, so I can say this. This is a good little surprise thing from university. We're getting together. His wife's an accountant, and she works at a large corporation where essentially, if you save a bunch of money on tax, the bonuses are nice. And that's a real, don't get me wrong, you can do really well for yourself there. I wanted to point a few things out. A, IMG is going nuts. B, Zoom is bouncing nicely off of VWAP. This market is catching a nice bid. Zoom off VWAP looking good. IMG, whatever. Like I sheepishly changed the subject because this is now going absolutely ham, and maybe we should have weaseled our way back in at 150. Certainly now that it's breaking the high, you have the halt price here at 175. Double halts about that 175 level. So all I want to see is a hold of the 175. Give me an entry where I can stop it at 170, and then we can see if we can get one more on this. It's almost 3:30, however, so we're running out of time. And if we're breaking out 190, then I can't stop it at 170. I have to find like a prior high. I'm hoping for a little bit of a dip here that can get me into this. Give me a consolidation, close another bar that holds 170, and I can get back into IMG. See, 100 million in volume. This is the one right now.
So we got a super chat here saying, is it possible you could display the imbalance indicator 15 minutes before the market opens or closes in the same YouTube window where your logos are? With the 25 QAR super chat.
I'm not sure. Hold on a second.
Pulkshin is.
Oh, I
Pulkshin
think
is asking.
So yeah, you know what? I don't know.
The data comes in a little bit. The actual data comes in at 50.
Yeah, like you have to remember, the imbalance locator for the opening auction and the closing auction, right? Like that's how they do an auction for the opening price and the closing price. There's a reason why it's publicly disseminated at 350. It's so that they don't want there to be extra volatility. So the reason why it's published so it can be paired off. Now, what I think you're referring to is when we get like early looks, like this is like from the broker in here, and then anything else, like you get some market imbalances early, like NYSE and NASDAQ, that's from the morning. You can see by the time. So anything here is just like early looks, which we only get on the New York. We don't get it for the NASDAQ, which quite frankly, a lot of times is where you want to see it. Although early look on Snapchat 1 million, let's just throw that out there. And an ARCA imbalance of 900,000 on MSTZ. That might be worth keeping an eye on. So I don't know, as far as throwing it up there somewhere else on the stream, we'll always allude to it when there's something significant. I don't know if that's something that we can do. It's something we can always look into something like that. But the real number comes out at 350, and then it's available to everybody publicly. And to show the entire thing, like it's individual stocks. I don't know how you could display that outside of popping it on a screen and scrolling up and down. Like it's not like showing the price of Bitcoin, or I could just have it up or something like that. It'd be a little bit difficult because how would you do every single symbol? I don't know. We got another super chat in here.
Yeah, looking at. I was typing in the chat here, just answering some questions. Just people asking about studying and stuff like that. But yeah, no, MJ Fitness.
We all know you got straight A's, Obi.
No, absolutely not.
Don't lie to.
Absolutely not.
Don't lie to the viewers.
There were some A's, some B's, and maybe just a sprinkle of some C's, depending on which subject I thought was important or not. Let's say that you got to distribute the efforts accordingly. If a course is worth only
you only have so much bandwidth,
6 or 7% of your total year, then maybe you don't want to allocate so much time to that course, right? So that's again, I guess it was specific like that. All right, so. We've got a follow-up there. Follow-up super chat by Olshkin right there. I'm aware of the YouTube video made of the imbalance indicator 3 years back. It's also available as part of the P-Pro trading software, but is this available to non-U.S. citizens living abroad?
You mean is P-Pro, so hold on a second. Is P-Pro 8 available to non-U.S. citizens living? If you can, at Real Trading, you can trade with Real Trading and have access to P-Pro 8 so long as you are not located in the United States, as far as I know. So as long as you are not located in the United States, so you can have access to P-Pro 8. That said, and I've said this before, if you have, I was able to just get some 180s and some 182s in here on IMG. My stop is, just so everybody, my stop is underneath 170. But I'm actually going to tighten that to 175 because giving it underneath that whole price. I'm going to tighten it to 175 in here just to give it a little bit more tighter risk. Scalp some into the high of the day. But yeah, just to finish the thought there. Like you can trade with Real Trading as long as you're not located in the United States. So that's something that I know everyone's always interested. Again, like how can I trade with Real Trading if I'm in the U.S. and I want to be able to do it? It's something that they've been looking into, no questions asked. I didn't even get my stop out. That's crazy. I got 2/3 of it out. This is what happens when you get trapped. I got 2/3 out here, and then my stop fired and didn't fill, which is interesting. I got to look back. There's a decent chance that I probably just keystroked it here on IMG and thought that I had lifted in here, but I left my other stop. So it is now in a down halt, and I got to take this one out off open. Thankfully, we're able to get that fill. I got a couple thirds out there, but still, I'm holding on to this. And that's exactly what we said we didn't want to happen. So IMD now halted downside. I'm not going to take it out at the open price. All I really have to do is I can put a stop in underneath here, and if it opens down there, I'm just getting out. That's the way I like to approach it. It effectively works as the same thing as a market on open order, but we're lucky to have gotten 2/3 out, but still, that should have been a stop out at that price. We got our fills at the high of the day, but now we're going to get out. And so unfortunately, I know no one likes that answer about the U.S., unfortunately, but just to complete the thought, if you have live level 2 data through your broker, then in the SIP feed is the imbalance locator. So if you're getting level 2 data, your broker probably has the capability to get you this feed. And so your broker works for you. And, well, your broker should work for you, I should say. We're lucky to trade with Real Trading. I'm lucky to have traded at a prop floor for a long time where that has been the case. So they want you to make money, and they want you to have the tools to make money. Maybe your broker has this and they want to charge extra for it, but you got to ask. As far as I'm concerned, you never get anything. You got to ask things if you want them. So if you're getting a level 2 feed through your broker and you don't have the imbalance locator, then I would just ask your broker. Send them an email. That's what they're there for, and bug them until they let you know. And if you charge for it, they charge for it. If you don't want it, then you don't pay for it. Otherwise, we'll let you guys know. Like Snapchat, still 1 million sell. MSTZ is a sell. That's an ARCA sell. But that Zeta is an early look sell imbalance as well. That's interesting. I would not have 700,000 shares is not chump change on Zeta. It's only done 5.8 million, and it's bleeding too. This could be interesting. Did we pay for locates on this? I think I might have.
Did we check out?
I did pay for locates
IBM
on
yet?
Zeta. I don't think we did. I was answering the question on the
Okay, no worries.
on the imbalance locator.
Yeah, no. Is that ticker open? You said you were just dealing with that IM, right? Okay, so I can take a look at IBM here on the day. Yeah, I guess this one missed a lot of our radars here. Pretty strong on the day, printing near day highs here, coming into the session close. Only about 25 minutes roughly left until the close, and we recently printed our day high here at 228, 229s. Pretty strong on the day. Wow, look at this action here. I wonder what was the reason for this run here, but we're getting some strong continuation, it would seem, about a multi-day run here on IBM, coming up all the way from 200. Oh boy. Yeah, let's see where some of these anchors are fixated to. I want to take a look at a quick 3-hour chart here to get a bigger picture. We'll get the VWAP out of the way so it kind of gives us a clear view at those candles. All right, so a little bit of a double bottom at that 200 mark, Neil, and then we got there off of an earnings sell-off. So a bit of a support showing up there on top of that 200, and we're kind of coming back up to which seems like, are these all-time highs on IBM? I think so, because I remember playing some all-time high pushes earlier this year on IBM. So let's take a quick look at the weekly and just make sure. Are we adjusted? Yes, we are. Okay, yeah, these are the all-time highs at 235.51. We're trading 228, so that aggressive pullback off of those all-time highs off the earnings report, we've recovered a majority of it. When's the next earnings report? I see it at, I guess, January 29th. So at the end of January on a Wednesday is when IBM's next earnings report is. But interestingly enough, we've reverted a decent chunk of that move with a bit of a base showing up here on that 200 hold on IBM. But yeah, no, good look here. Definitely maybe one to watch. If this is going to continue pushing up higher, all the way up into those 235s, we could still have a couple days left of run to go. You can see the strong consolidation that happened before that strong flush off of earnings. So a little bit of indecisiveness, sideways chop, chop, chop in and around 232s. And yeah, got almost a 30-point flush all the way down to a low of 201.91 here on IBM. But yeah, nice little recovery as well. So it seems like this anchored that I have on, it's probably from the beginning of the year, if I remember correctly. Let's go back to the 3-hour chart and check out where some of these anchors are coming from. So all right, the first anchor coming from the first earnings of the year. And then the second anchor coming again from the second earnings of the year. I don't have an anchored on the third one, so let's go throw that one on. I'm pretty sure we're trading above that one as well. So let's take a quick look at that. So yeah, we come down into some of those prior levels and then bounce off of that. And then I guess just to finish it off, let's throw an anchored on the most recent earnings as well. So I want to do that. All right, so yeah, a bit of a sandwich between some prior anchors, and then we finally make a decision off of that. There, I see that you are out of your position now. So
yeah, it opened back up. It's actually at 170. IMG's at 170, but I got out before that.
Okay.
And we were just talking about the imbalance locator and one of the many tools that we use to trade every single day. Well, I want to tell you about eSignal, a place where obviously you can get the imbalance feed as well, but a host of other things. Because if you're looking to trade smarter and not harder, which is what we talk about every single day, then you want to make sure that you upgrade to an elite trading experience. You're talking about every possible indicator you could look for, every possible symbol you could look for, every possible scanner and a technical indicator you could want is going to be all available in one spot. And the other thing you've got to consider is when you're looking for opportunities, you want to cast as wide a net as possible, then be able to bring that down, get a good quote board, and refine it. And that's what eSignal is going to allow for you. Then when you've done that, you want the ability to test out any strategies you might have using back testing. It's a very important thing if you're developing any kind of strategy, back tested, forward tested. See what the win rate would be. Be able to refine it before you put it live. And then when you do put any trade live, start looking at the ability to do a bit of a tick replay. You've got tick replay available at eSignal where you can look back at the price action of any entry that you might have had and then refine your trading that way. If you want to get better, you want the tools to be able to do it. So check out eSignal, 30-day free trial available for you. Scan the QR code below or that you see right there, or check the link in the description, elevate your trading game there. And like as I said, they're going to have the imbalance locator like any good platform is going to have. Here, I was going to talk about GameStop and my lack of getting short there, but yeah, we reopened on IMG. I got out about 165 in there, so we did get trapped in that halt for a third of our position. Thankfully, we had gotten some out, so it ends up being flat on the last entry. After a couple of wins, we didn't take a flat trade, but it would have been a win if I actually had had my stop out before the close, before the halt. GME, it didn't quite get to VWAP, but I felt like that should have been enough. Remember I said that GameStop was sort of lumped into the group of the names going with crypto, and MSTR was leading that group? Well, remember when MicroStrategy made that rollover through 55, and then the other one at 56? I got out of the long in Mara. Well, you could have just simply flipped short where it happened to be breaking down on GameStop. And again, you've already seen the curl happen on a lower high. Remember, at this point, when this is breaking down, MSTR is making a lower high. Like it's made one top and making a lower high top, and you're getting a start of a breakdown on GameStop. So this is what I mean about trading sympathy off one. You don't have to be in the name that's leading. Sometimes the easier trade can be to jump in and out of a stock which is following along. I just want to go back over and show you guys that Zeta, whatever. 700 sell. Like this stock only does like a couple of million shares, so it's a pretty decent size sell. This is Zeta, not Xena, so it's not the one from yesterday. It's a different stock. And then Snapchat early look buy of 1 million. I didn't show you guys the Snapchat chart, but a million buy on a 17 million in volume name. This is certainly one that can react. If it does come out a million or bigger, I would suspect you could have a little bit of a mover. So I'm going to have that up just in case at 350 you get some residual. We just had MSCI rebalancing yesterday. Sometimes you'll get like day two, a name that might have moved around or had an imbalance, might be a little bit of extra action the next day. Every now and then. It's not a guarantee, but I would suspect you might see a few imbalances. Not like yesterday. You're not going to see the types of numbers that we saw in terms of size of imbalance like yesterday, but you could still see a little bit of residual there.
And that's I'm always asking.
Oh. We can't have a show without being muted every now and then.
Yeah.
That's how you know that we're traders and not professional broadcasters. In the morning, in the morning, the amount of times that like Ramin will just shoot me a look, and I'm like, and I'll just sheepishly turn on my microphone. Like, you got to tell me. They give us like a mic up 5 minutes before we come on. Like, if you don't hold my hand like that, it's true. And he gives that look. I pity the fool that doesn't hit the like and subscribe button. No, seriously, like, yeah, I forget all the time to do it. But finish your thought.
I pity the fool that doesn't hit the like and subscribe button.
Yeah, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. Oh, there he is, right there. Yeah, no, that's what I was saying. I was like, whenever you have aggressive imbalances like that, the question I ask is, are they done? I guess filling those orders. Do they still have some residual? And you know, it's maybe not always going to be there, but it's something definitely to look for. Oh boy. Here comes in Google. I covered everything in and around the 30s, and we're finally coming into 169s, coming into these imbalances. There's only about 8 more minutes left there, and I don't have any more of the shorts. So are we going to get that reversion to VWAP, man? Oh boy, getting a little bit of FOMO. So I will take the breakdown of this level to see if that'll have any follow through with the much smaller piece. But if we don't and we take right back above, I'm more than willing to kind of give it up into the 20s and 30s here. But let's see if this breakdown kind of comes in. I did cover it too aggressively here, but the trade idea is still working. The trade is still on. And this in itself, I think, is a separate trade. So I would have definitely added a little bit here back into and through that 169 here on goggles. Let's see, not really any market tailwind just yet. as we pull into the close. But I like that with a bit of a reversion that is working out. This was the reversion I was looking at, so it kind of broke that trend and started to fade a little bit lower. So we've got to get in on some of those pops. But you can see that this is also that prior or opening range highs are sitting around here. A lot of churn, a lot of chop and churn happened in and around those levels, and we're coming down right on top of those. But VWAP is sitting at 168.83.
Biden saying that ceasefire deal will be effective at 4 a.m. local time tomorrow.
Okay. And
Israel will gradually withdraw and civilians will return home. No U.S. troops will be deployed in southern Lebanon. So there is, I don't know if that's going to contribute to the move. Maybe a bounce in here, but as far as I'm concerned, anytime you have a de-escalation of any conflict, that is a good thing. I don't care what your politics are. But yeah, so that just hit the wire. I don't know if you're getting a bit of a bounce in the NASDAQ. Because of that, you were already bouncing as far as I'm concerned. Silky smooth. Imagine if Neil became a pro wrestler instead of a trader. I'm 175 pounds. I don't know what I look like on camera, but there's no way I get my butt whooped. I know it's fake, but those guys are still supreme athletes. Although, I like Norman Smiley. You know why? Because he was a jobber. And sometimes, do you know what a jobber is? So when you ever watched professional wrestling? Okay, so anyways, there's the main guys that are famous, and every now and then they have to they'll go in and just do a match against a dude who doesn't have profile, and it's just they need to fight somebody, and it's all this set, and they're gonna beat the guy, and the other guy doesn't have profile. They're just in there to be fodder every now and then, so they have someone to wrestle, and it's not always a primetime match, but they call him a jobber. And Norman Smiley was one of those guys for a long time, and he did such a good job. Usually a jobber gets to be something else when they get a persona and they come up with a character and all that stuff. He was one of the few dudes who went from random guy named Norman Smiley to then high profile when he was still just Norman Smiley. No, he had no catchphrase, he had no get up, nothing. He just knocked it out of the park with hard work and laying it on the line in the ring, and he was entertaining and people liked him, and he didn't need any pizzazz. He didn't have some flash or some crazy outfit or made up persona. He was just badass as Norman Smiley the jobber. So it just goes to show there's a million ways to get it done. You can just be you and do you, work hard and kick butt, and if that gets appreciated, you can be the Norman Smiley of whatever, or you can do some crazy stuff like Gold Dust, and then people will gravitate towards the extreme persona that you have. But anyways, I used to watch wrestling.
I remember watching, I think it was WWE or something. Yeah. Back in the day, I guess growing up. I think my parents didn't really like me watching wrestling for the most part, but it was still fun. I still remember that. What was his name? Rafiki or Rafiki? He had a very distinct move, and I still kind of remember that. That was pretty. That was pretty funny there. That's pretty much. I was just I might have been a little scarred from that because I was just like,
no,
what is going
Rafiki
on
was the
here?
sumo guy that would sit.
Yeah, he would sit on people.
Yeah. That's an okay way to say it.
I mean, damn.
Yo, this market is actually bouncing on that headline, right?
It is.
So over the coming days, the U.S. is going to make a push with Turkey, Qatar, and others for a Gaza ceasefire. This is really getting a bounce in the markets. You're seeing crypto make a the crypto-related names that were punching down, certainly catching a little bit of a bit. Now, with only 3 minutes to go to the imbalances, I wouldn't put trades on right before the imbalances regardless, but you're now back to resistance here on the NASDAQ. So ever since we mentioned that, let me just pull up a chart of the Qs here on a 3 minute so you guys can see this in a more granular sense. So ever since we dropped that headline about 4 minutes ago, right in here, there's the bounce. So it is moving the markets. They like the ceasefire.
Look at
Absolutely
that.
Fantastic. Even MSTR, it's good when even MSTR is catching a bid. What was weaker than MSTR today? That just bounced $15 to the upside. So there you go. You're getting a nice move. Everyone likes this. I mean, who doesn't like a ceasefire? Certainly a positive headline coming through. I'm going to make the assumption that NVIDIA caught a bid into VWAP 137. Say it ain't so, NVIDIA. AMD, what are you doing, AMD?
Is Rip City.
Is it asking too much for AMD to bounce to VWAP? You get all this exuberance right back into resistance. I pull up an AMD chart, and this thing is still like $1 underneath VWAP. AMD stinks. It stinks.
Aggressive bid coming in. I see that Amazon's continuing to push push higher there. I guess, yeah, that bounce off of VWAP coming in real hot into the close. And stopped out of that Google as well. We aggressively bid past that 169.40. And I was like, all right, well, that's bye-bye. I'm going to try that maybe some other time there. But yeah, some strong volume coming in here. Look at that volume bar on this chart. Some aggressive volume coming in on that push there. Amazon as well. Look at this. We're pushing right into those prior highs or day highs were 207.78s. Now they're 81s. And again, with a strong volume candle, we're breaking that high a day there. So watch out, Google. I think that that high a day probably incoming if we're going to continue to tick up like this. Look at the NASDAQ. We pretty much failed to follow through that low. We got down to 20,900s, and we're coming right back up into 2100 as of right now, going into the close. Only about a few seconds left until these imbalances come in, Neil. So let's keep an eye out on on the imbalance locators and see what they may or may not bring us. Again, yesterday was MSCI.
Hopefully we get some action.
Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully we get some we get some nice imbalances. But if not, whatever. Where's the next trade is what I'm asking. Might be on the imbalances, might not be.
It's never a guarantee, but the imbalances just dropped. I've got Nvidia, 4 million buy side. Nvidia, 4.2 million buy. Intel, 2.4 million to the buy side. I didn't even have Nvidia up. 2.4 million to the buy side. 1.7 million to the buy side. Apple, 1 million buy. SoFi, oh really? SoFi, 1 million to the sell side. I just assumed buy. Broadcom and Qualcomm, 1 million buys. So basically, it's likely to be an overall buy imbalance, as you guys can tell. Alphabet, 900,000 buy. AMD, 850,000 to the buy side as well. So it is all buys, seriously, except for SoFi. Come on, SoFi. It's bouncing anyway, so that's fine. But yeah, buy side imbalances led by Nvidia, 4.2 million shares. Obviously, you're going to get some reaction usually. Yeah, that's not what you're hoping for on Nvidia. What's the size of this move here? This candle is 30 cents and immediately rejecting VWAP on a 4.2 million buy imbalance. That is not the response that we're looking for. Nvidia, I'm going to say nothing burger on NVDA. Maybe there's something else worth looking at. Qualcomm, that's not big enough. Those aren't huge imbalances overall individually.
Nothing crazy, man. Like I'm looking here, the action that I did like was that Google kind of bid up on that aggression, and all of a sudden you slam back in, and you can see the wick there on the Nasdaq as well. I'm like, all right, well, if you're going to do that, I'm already watching you. I'm going to get right back in, looking for that continuation back down into VWAP if it happens. If not, the stop is pretty much very clear. It's to the high of that reaction that we had on the news and those imbalances as well. Yeah, okay, so this is what I'm talking about right here. So on the goggles, so in at 25, still it's holding 20s now, but that aggressive push came right back in. Again, it is 52. Pairing event happens at 55. So we got 3 minutes for this action to pair. And what is Google looking like? Well, you see, Google's down here. It's a buy. It's about a 600K buy. And we did bid up on it, but then we slam right back in. I'm looking for a potential break of this 169. And if that's not going to be there, it's not going to be there. I'm more than willing to get out and reassess. Again, we only have about 8 minutes left. Again, it is a shortened week. Opportunities, got to be a little bit more precise. But yeah, no, taking random shots, I think is okay for kind of learning and feeling things out. But putting on aggressive risk, I don't know. It's not something that I'm going to be doing going into the close here. I think that's more saved for, again, playbook setups and off of the open there. Mainly for me, but yeah, no, it seems like KSS, that 15 level, man. So we bid up off of that 15. Look at where we come back in and hold on KSS. That 15 still holding a little bit of significance here going into the end of the day as we hold that 15 and now ticking back up into 1523. So, oh boy, there goes the NASDAQ once again up into 2100. So let's see, does Google push back up into those 169.60s, or do we hold and churn this sideways chop that we've pretty much been doing over the past couple of hours here? Since about 2 o'clock, we made this low, we made a lower high, we made a lower low as well. I covered a little bit, and I covered aggressively where I'm like, okay, well, this is getting a little too sideways for me. I was looking for that strong trend going into that VWAP, and that didn't really come in. Sure, we made some more lower lows here on this prior push, and you guys were here for that. Didn't really work out. Let's see if this final kind of push into the end of the day works out or not. But the market's pretty strong, and I know I'm pretty much trading against that as of right now on a high beta name like Google. So I do have to be careful with that. But 54 is only about a few more seconds, or about 40 seconds left until that pairing event happens, and we are knocking on the door of 21,000 going into the close. So that 21 probably going to get taken out. Let's see how much further past that 21 we can really get here on the NASDAQ. There it is, 21 prints right there on the NASDAQ. So let us know how your guys' trading day has gone today. What have you guys been trading? There's only 6 minutes left. Are you guys taking any trades into the close, or are you done for the day? Right? There's some aggressiveness happening here, a bit of a shake and bake on the book here on Google, but it only popped up and down about 10 pennies, so I'm still going to hold on here 10 seconds until, oh boy, look at that, Neil.
Nvidia
169s. As soon as that we come into 169s going into the close, so I guess that trade
Nvidia's
is
pairing
happening
already
as of right now. Oh boy. So there's the pairing event. Let's see what we get going into the close. Do we get any aggressive continuation of that selling there? We hit a low of, I think, what was that? A low of 169 and some change there in the 10s, and an aggressive bid back to 24. So just a bunch of noise.
Lots of noise. And we talk about
a bunch of noise.
We always talk about the pairing event there. Nvidia, right before the 355, went to 1.2 million, and from a 4.2 million imbalance to 700,000 to gone. No longer there, but this knee. And if you don't
knee.
See this, see that's how you know Monty Python.
How can I not know?
Legit. But the real question is, what is your name? What is your quest? And what is your favorite color?
Yes.
Those are the three. You must answer these questions three. But knee, if you saw Obi talking and then some charts of NEE, it's because when I saw that imbalance, I immediately looked at the chart, saw it trending up, was like, what is going on with Nextera? Looked over at the daily chart. Oh, really? This is what's going on with NEE? I'm not saying it's a trade tomorrow. I'm just saying. But look at this 77.5. Look at the consolidation of higher lows. I mean, does this seem like something that could give us a move? Trended up today. Now it's breaking a local high. All you got to do is consolidate and break a 78. I don't think we're asking too much. This deserves to be on the radar, and it doesn't hurt that you had this buy imbalance here. So somebody wants to buy this one up going into the close. And I absolutely agree with you, Marty, in the chat. Sir Robin was a coward. And with that, I got to get up to the desk instead of, as you can tell, Adair is not here. So you're going to join me in the aftermarket show. We got CrowdStrike reporting, Ambarella. We've got DELL, HPQ. And we're going to have Brian Shannon joining us as well. So there's a heck of a lot to look at. So don't go anywhere. Stick around. We'll be there for you. I'm going to throw it on over to Obi, and you'll see me at the desk in just a couple of minutes, everybody.
Another solid day. Thank you, Neil. Days at the close, pretty much. We have less than 3 minutes left. And what has the market done? Yes, a bit of a slight trend. We held that 6,000 mark there coming into the open. Held quite above it. 15 points above it, and ticked up about another 30 points during the day. The NASDAQ as well, just chop and churn, about 100-point, I guess a 200-point churn here on, 100-point churn. Quick maths, 100-point churn, 20,900 to 2,100 here all day. With potentially an expanding range, I don't know, but we pretty much did a lot of sideways action there. Some news on some tickers. We got that MSOS pop as well. today, and yeah, nothing else too crazy. Backside on MSTR is still happening. That thing continued to sell off. There, we can take a quick look. Take a quick look at that one. Yeah, muscle memory. As soon as I type in anything with an M, I type in Microsoft right away. Yeah, okay, so we did make a day low of 33870s here on MicroStrategy. So yeah, this thing is continuing to the downside a little bit here. Let's take a look at AMD. We know that one was aggressively sold off in the morning session. So let's see where that one is coming into a close here on the day today. So pretty much near its lows. We never really got that reversion. We never really pushed up back into VWAP with any sort of distinction on the day today, and yeah, nothing too crazy. Yeah, no, people in the chat shouting out more quotes from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. So yeah, great show. It's been a while since I watched it, so I don't remember all the I guess interactions and I guess lines, but. There's one that's kind of my favorite, and I've said this one before. It's who are you who is so wise in the ways of science? I really like that one. I found that one very funny as well. It's when they I guess they burn the witch or drown the witch or whatever. They compare her to a duck. And you know, it's an interesting logical reasoning, and it's pretty funny. It's good satire as well. But yeah, hopefully you guys had a solid day. We only have about 20 seconds left here on the day, so let me throw that countdown on as of right now. So the closing bell. I don't see anybody at it just right now, but maybe I can kind of. No, I'm joking. But hopefully, there you go. Ding, ding, ding. There it is, guys. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget, there's still tomorrow, shortened week, no trading on Thursday, half day on Friday. Make sure to join us for both of those. I will be here tomorrow once again with Neil. There's the gong there. But yeah, no, market a little indecisive, maybe a little consolidative today. Lower volume, it would seem, but sideways action nonetheless. Definitely still lots of opportunities on the day, so hopefully you guys had a solid trading day, and hopefully everybody followed their processes on the day today. And yeah, always a good time to kind of put in some reps, maybe observe, maybe not put on aggressive risk, but we're winding down off of earnings season as well. You guys saw earnings calendar didn't really have too much on the roster this week. Last week we had Nvidia, and that Nvidia has been taking a bit of a pullback as well. Oh boy, yeah, there you go. People hitting the bid below 169 on Google after the close. GG's for that one there. But without any further ado, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Neil is at the desk for the market recap. Take care, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you very much there, Obi. We have a few earnings names to get to right here. Now, I don't see the numbers hitting the wire just yet, but Workday, that's 100% got to be out. Workday now up 8%. We're expecting DELL at 405. Autodesk and Workday are the two first ones to come out. These guys have a 2% short float and 2 days to cover. So I've got third quarter adjusted EPS, a 189 beating expectations of 175 here. Revenues 2.16 billion versus 2.13. So Workday, and we are 141. It's breaking out. It's gorgeous. 52-week high just got made on Workday as that is pumping higher. I don't know that I see Autodesk just yet. Oh, here we go. Autodesk is also out, so ADSK going to be making a move. Unfortunately, it wasn't, oh, maybe not. It was down at 310, now back up to 319. Autodesk, they got adjusted EPS beating estimates, beat of 217 versus 212. You've got sales, very slight beat on sales, 1.57 billion versus 1.562. So slight beat on revenue. You've got a good beat on EPS. Interesting that there was a dip initially here on Autodesk down to 310. Now it's starting to work back in. Oh, they ran some stops down there on Autodesk. And now all of a sudden another name, 2 for 2, breaking out while it's a stock near the highs. So good luck for Autodesk. Not a huge beat on the revenue side. They're still waiting on some numbers for guidance for them. But Workday also, a couple of announcements coming from Workday here. It looks like they've they've announced a new president and chief commercial officer as well going on with Workday. So big move to the upside for them. You're now pulling back a little bit here. We're going to go back to the 1 minute chart. You're pulling back to 280. It's worth mentioning the expected move was 9.5%. So it's going to come up pretty much your 270. You're pretty much going right to the expected move here. You're not really getting that 10% push. That would have been about 297. So coming up just shy of that, and then you're pulling back. Now DELL, which we weren't expecting until 405, I still don't see DELL. We're expecting 405, but it is trading slightly down. So every now and then, remember, I always say don't trade these aftermarket, and if you do, make sure you're not trading pre the number, but you are getting a push down here in DELL. I don't have the numbers is coming out, and we're not expecting them until 405. Just another update here for Autodesk. They see revenue, Q4 revenue of 1.623 billion to 1.638 versus 1.621 estimates. So their guide looks like it's in top end of the range. That's another good strike there for Autodesk, but you are getting a push down here in DELL. Unfortunately, it's down a couple of points. Still do not see the earnings out, so we don't have the numbers on them. Again, maybe a couple of fat fingers, maybe some people getting a little bit anxious. We've also got after, and 405, we're also expecting CrowdStrike. So in about a minute or so, Crowd, which is starting to go to the upside, we do expect them to hit the wire. CrowdStrike expected move of 8.4%. But keep in mind, before this comes out here, CrowdStrike filled in the entirety of the gap since that security bungle, and you've got the top here at 390 change. So this could be one that makes a run at that top, and here it goes. CrowdStrike to the upside, just challenged the 370 level, but $5 or $6 to the upside on CrowdStrike. It's trying to go. We'd love to see this one fill in a bit of a gap here as CrowdStrike now right back into the red. That goes the other way. So instead of a fake out down into the upside, now CrowdStrike is bleeding to the downside. Now 356 and still falling. Not looking good. CrowdStrike EPS of 93 cents versus 81 cents. So they beat on that. They beat slightly on revenue, 1.01 billion versus 983, but it is getting rinsed to the downside. Not huge. 3 points isn't much, but it's still dropping, and the bid is looking heavy, down at 350. So you're not looking too good down here on CrowdStrike. But the other thing, and we shouldn't have been celebrating when we got a good move on Autodesk, because DELL also getting punished. CrowdStrike and DELL headed lower, 141 down to 132. You are going to be able to withstand the expected move. Was 9% down, you're down 6%. DELL not looking great. They did, and again, it's not always about, and I know we get wrapped up on this when it comes to beating estimates. Look, they beat estimates, EPS 215 versus 205. Sales, a bit of a miss. This is the first one to miss on sales. 24.37 versus 24.65 on the estimates there. So they did miss on sales, unfortunately. Operating income comes in 2.199 million. That beat estimates as well slightly. So overall, you have a slight revenue miss here, but you're trading lower on DELL. Maybe you're priced a little bit well here. You had a nice rally into earnings. You are getting a pullback. The 50 period, the 200 period, going to be in play here on DELL at that 125. I saw someone in the chat saying 125 on DELL. Why not? Also, I see you in there, Charmine. Charmine in the chat asking, what about NTNX, Nutanix? I did see them hit the wire. Let me just quickly find that one for you. That made a strong move up. Not necessarily as big as the names that we're covering, but so they're up. NTNX up after, but they actually missed. EPS of 10 cents missed 0.31. Their sales were a beat, 590 million beat on sales for NTNX, a miss on EPS, but they're going up anyways. Again, it doesn't necessarily matter what the price, or the beat or the miss. It's the price action after the fact. Like CrowdStrike, they beat top and bottom, and you're still holding underneath 350. Now, where do we expect you could find a little bit of bid support on CrowdStrike? You've got a nice little 320, 325. But I think, look, when this lost the gap, it was down here. at about 335 to 340. I think that's the area where you just had a bit of a run up into earnings that you might try to catch a bit of a bid. So you're starting to head to the downside here. There's always that question, why are they down despite a beat? At the end of the day, it's not so simple as, hey, did we beat expectations? Not everyone only cares about EPS, top and bottom line here. But overall, just a couple of things just to get into crowd earnings if you want to get a little bit more granular. They had a 29% increase year over year on revenue. That's pretty solid. Subscription revenue was a 31% beat. So that actually looks pretty good. ARR, 27% increase year over year. There's a lot to like about it, but it doesn't matter. We saw this, and I warned everybody that Palo Alto also beat top, bottom, left, middle, all that good stuff, and it still pulled back. So is it all that surprising that CrowdStrike would pull back? I hate to say it, but I don't know that it is, unfortunately. You also have just another one here for you guys, another report. Urban Outfitters is out. They came out at 405 as well. This will be a happy story as Urban Outfitters, with a 9% short float, by the way, just hit $43. So you got 6% at one point here on Urban Outfitters. So a good look for them. It's going to see if we can check to see what the numbers are, only because some people were asking about it. I know it's not DELL. I know it's not CrowdStrike. We've just gone over both those heading downside. So they reported record sales and earnings here on Urban. Just actually have to open this one up and read it. They're not going to give me the headline here. Net income $102 million. So that'll be like $1.1, $1.10 here EPS for Urban Outfitters. Net income is at $102 million. Although, I mean, year over year, that's actually not that impressive. But hey, it doesn't really matter. Sometimes it's about the fact that it's a 9% short flow and you're going to get the upside move here. CrowdStrike, I'm still waiting on the guidance numbers from Crowd, if we can even find them in here. Because I think CrowdStrike's the one that's probably going to surprise the most people. So they see CrowdStrike sees full year 2025 revenue $3.92 billion to $3.93 versus $3.897. So they're guiding revenue better than expectations, and their EPS guide looks good as well, better than expectations. So hey, at the end of the day, even the guidance is good here in CrowdStrike. It could just be a matter of being priced to perfection. Ambarella, I do believe they are also out. AMBA, that's headed to the upside. So another name, you know what? Unfortunately, the high profile aren't giving it to us. It's not DELL. It's not CrowdStrike. It's AMBA. It tends to be something else. You look left, the market goes right. From a technical standpoint, that's going to be about as good as it gets. And sometimes that's how it is. Everyone and their mother probably would have wanted a flat top break here, but too late. You're too late, man. 17% up on AMBA. They did beat EPS. See, interesting. No, the sales is up 82 million versus 50 million year over year, but really their EPS 11 cents versus 28 cents the previous year. So really you're getting growth, but they're actually making a little bit less on an EPS basis than they did year over year. But let's be real. Sometimes it's just a technical break and they like it. This is one of those ones where when you get the outsized move, we've talked about this with Danielle Shea, we've talked about this to you guys, and I know we'll say this tomorrow morning. Sean will say it, or I'll say it, or Obi will say it, or somebody will say it. When you get an outsized move on earnings, those are the ones you want to look continuation. When you stay inside the expectation 7%, you move 5%, you don't care as much about those. Because everyone got rinsed on the options, and all the sellers are the only ones that made any money. I want the continuation on the stock that blew it out of the water, and then look for a little extra volatility. That's what I think you're getting here with Ambarella. 17% to the upside, big move, holding consolidation higher, and you're in a new territory on the daily. Like you're breaking away on the daily trade. Everything about it. Like you were already breaking away. Now you're extending that move on a 17% gain. So unfortunately, not looking that great for the names that I know everybody came here because you wanted to see CrowdStrike and DELL do well. I'm with you. I'm absolutely with you as well. Still looking to see where we get the guidance here for DELL. Yeah, it was, like I said, top and bottom beat here with DELL. I'm still not seeing any earnings guidance. Let me just see if I can find another source for you guys there, because they're still not liking it. As a matter of fact, DELL is retesting the low of the day as we speak. So not a very good look here with DELL as it continues to fall to the downside. Yeah, getting punished here for sure. I got some guidance for you. 2025 guidance, revenue anticipated range 97 to 98 billion on DELL, reflecting expected demand infrastructure to increase. And EPS, 7.3 versus 7.4, 7.30 to 7.45 on full year EPS forward guidance there for DELL. Overall, they're not liking it. It doesn't matter what we say. It doesn't matter what you want to happen. DELL retesting the lows, and it is down 8%. The expected move on DELL was 9.4. So even with this move down, you still managed to hold on to support. You managed to be less than the overall move. The good thing about DELL, well, we'll see for a trade, is if it gets that expected move, you could get an SSR bounce territory tomorrow, which you guys know that I do like. Overall, you always have to separate the whole left brain, right brain, trading versus investing. I think when I see DELL down potentially 10%, I start thinking trading opportunities for a bounce off a 10% down move, something along those lines. You could be reverting a little bit of an upward trend here on DELL, unfortunately. It's trying to catch a little bit of a bid here, but you're still seeing it trade right off of those lows. And of course, the same thing happening over there with CrowdStrike. Although CrowdStrike, yeah, there we go. Just look away from Crowd for a little bit, and then it'll try to catch a bit of a bid. But you know what? When you've got major earnings, and when you've got big moves on major earnings names, generally speaking, you want to talk to somebody who's going to know his charts pretty well. We've got somebody who knows his charts very, very well coming in just a couple of minutes here, or hopefully maybe even shorter time frame than that, because we do have our good friend Brian Shannon, who will be joining us in very, very shortly to talk over some earnings names and maybe a little Bitcoin. Because I don't know if you guys have noticed, Bitcoin has been leading the charge in terms of volatility, expressed mostly by MSTR plunging like an absolute rock. So I know we saw this catch a bit at the end of the day. Just checking back in, it's still down 13%, getting absolutely wrecked. The short's still working over there in MSTR. But a bit of a disappointment, I would say. You know, disappointment on earnings here, unless you're in Ambarella, which is now now it's still going. Ambarella is gorgeous. Now $82, 22% to the upside on AMBA. We'll see what happens tomorrow with DELL and CrowdStrike, but taking the cake and leading it alphabetically first, but certainly now 22% up. Remember, you want the outsized movers. And we've talked about this before. Everybody wants to trade Nvidia. The last couple of days, we got all kinds of questions about Nvidia. It was the number one symbol people wanted to talk about in the afternoon. But today, that wasn't the place to be for trades. I know that's not what everyone wanted to hear, but where should you have been trading? You had the pullback in crypto. You had a good move up in GameStop of all things. That could have been a good way to express trade. You had umpteen small cap stocks that were moving around. And unless you shorted Nvidia early, that was not the place to be. You had good bounces and plays in Zoom off of earnings. So sometimes tomorrow, holiday shortened week, you're going to want to be where the volume is. So Ambarella now up 25%. This should be on a watch list tomorrow. I promise you'll be on our watch list tomorrow, that's for sure. Could be a big mover for sure. I do want to make sure we check back in on CrowdStrike in here. Yeah, it's still holding the bottom here at the 350 level. A little bit of bleed happening. I know this isn't what everyone wants to see. Like I said, they did beat on the top and the bottom lines, but not the best. And then one last one. I know we have Brian Shannon coming on. HPQ also taking it on the chin as they have fallen 10%. Another potential SSR bounce name. You got HPQ, DELL, and CrowdStrike taking it on the chin. We do have Brian Shannon jumping in, and I will take a look at this PGHL. Just one for you here. Yeah, this PGHL PGHL, yuck, yuck, yuck. Vinu, I see you in the chat. I just pulled it up on I pulled this bad boy up on my news source. What in the heck is going on with that? That's all I got to say. That is gross. That is absolutely gross. But what goes up must come down. That's nasty. Let's go to Brian Shannon. We've got a little trader talk locked and loaded, ready to go. Got to see what's going on with crypto. Got to see where we can maybe buy some dips here on some of these names that have lost on earnings. We've seen it with DELL. But let's talk to our main man, Brian Shannon of Anchored VWAP fame. Welcome, Brian. Always good to talk to you.
Good to see you, Neil. Yeah.
Well, we've talked.
Ambarella's going nuts.
Absolutely is. I love, sometimes, like I said, you've got to be able to look at and focus on the trading opportunities. I would probably understand that most people, if they're looking at their portfolio, you're probably more likely to own, I don't know, a CrowdStrike or a DELL, probably not an HPQ, than you would Ambarella. But from a trading standpoint, which one is looking like it's going to be more exciting for a trade? A lot of times it's going to be Ambarella. But welcome. It's good to talk to you. I haven't had a chance to be able to discuss any of these earnings plays with you in a while because usually Tuesday Sean gets to do the show. So it's a pleasure for me to hop on with you. First things first, talking about, I want to go back to crypto for a quick little second.
Mm-hmm.
Positioning after this $100,000 pullback. Everybody, we get so many people in our chat asking what is next? Where do we buy the dip? Is it a healthy pullback? Are we getting back to 100,000? When are we getting to 100,000? There's so much volatility right now in the crypto adjacent names and Bitcoin itself that it's like the start of every single day instead of Nvidia lately, which is usually where people want to go. So I want to get your thoughts, maybe starting there.
Sure. I've got IBIT up on my screen because I know a lot of your subscriber base, listeners trade this. And on here, we are below the declining 5-day moving average. So that just gives me a little bit of caution. But I think this is the key right here, Neil. This is the anchor from the election, and it is appropriately colored orange for President Trump. And that would bring us down into about 51 even. So as far as the level on Bitcoin itself, that's at about 88.2. And I do have some bids in there. This is really... Crypto is really the only market I buy on dips because it just, you get the opportunity to, and if you blink, the opportunity is often gone. I think that down in towards that 51 level, though, for IBIT is where you want to start looking for buying this dip.
And that's a great look. And I know we threw out the book there. I know you're going to throw an anchor on there. And the important thing to remember when you're using an anchored VWAP is to make sure that you anchor it to a big event. Now, we always talk about earnings, but for this rally in crypto, it has been the election that's got it going. Now, can I, just a quick question for you, and this comes down to other election names that have run, and I'm going to put you on the spot with this a little bit.
Sure, no problem.
Tesla specifically, we all know it's been rallying since the election as well. But on top of that, it also made a power move off of earnings. What would be your approach in a situation like this? You had a huge run off of their last earnings report in the first place. Then you had another secondary run off the election. Do you put more weight into the more recent event because that's the new juice? Or do they both matter because clearly you've had entries at both spots and would you have a couple of anchored VWAPs that you're willing to trade off of?
Great question, Neil. We have the gap from the earnings report, and as you said, more recently was the election. So because that's more relevant, and right now the location of the anchor from the election is at 325 versus earnings down here at 302, this is going to come into play first. What we would want to see is if we continue to pull back in Tesla, that maybe we start to hold in here, maybe a little shakeout, and then begin to bounce from there. If that didn't materialize, what I would then look for is if it gets trapped underneath the anchor from the election, then I would think we would have a pretty quick test down towards the anchor from the earnings report. That would be our next bigger level. That would also take out this low, which would be nice for a shakeout. So if this, if 325-ish, let's say, fails to hold, I think you're looking at 305 in Tesla, and then we've got to, probably back it out to a daily time frame to get a little bit more bigger picture look at it.
Yeah, and you know what? I sheepishly, as someone who looks for an opportunity, I sheepishly want to see the test of the earnings low because I feel like you'll have so many people that are out of the initial bounce under that first anchor from the election that it might just be a little bit less resistance on a bounce. You've wiped out a few of those weaker hands. Just from a trading standpoint, look, I like Tesla. I own it in my long-term account. I don't want stocks to go down, but I think a lot of times if you actually trap or get a few weaker hands out, that can lead to a little bit of a bigger move, which I do like. And there's a question in the chat here, Saad, asking me to ask you, if you anchor, here, I'm just going to read it verbatim, because why not? Can you ask Brian if he anchors on the day's close or the after hours of previous day for after hours earnings? So I guess the question would be, for aftermarket earnings, where precisely do you put the anchor? Maybe we could just use CrowdStrike here as an example.
Sure. I mean, so for CrowdStrike, initially you want to be looking at it, of course, as soon as the news is released, and you want to look at that on a very short-term time frame. So at this point, a 1 minute, and ignore the other lines on there. But I would anchor right here. So let's just make that one. That's this one. Let me see. Sorry. So right from this very first end of the day. Now you could argue, well, why not this bar where the big volume was? This is, though, what I consider to be the most important right now. And tomorrow morning, you'll want to carry this anchor over into the pre-market and throughout the day. In a day or two, once enough volume has occurred that this volume isn't as significant anymore, then you generally want to do it from, let's say, on a 15-minute time frame. Let's say this was the earnings right here, then you would want to do it from that point, from the opening of the gap. Interestingly enough, Neil, when we look at this 15-minute time frame, look at the almost identical exact low there. That's the anchor from the election.
Yeah. I think it might just be a situation here, Brian, now that you just pointed that out. And we just talked about Bitcoin anchoring to the election, obviously Tesla, and it would be an easy thing to say just look at the anchor from the election for any names that obviously should have got a boost from Trump. But maybe it's just significant in general. And it might be, because there was a rally and everything that wasn't the 10 ETF and solar names and marijuana, but almost everything in tech did get a nice little bounce there, and it might be worth putting those anchors in. But I do appreciate you answering that question, because that's, like, at the end of the day, we don't know where traders are on their journey. Maybe you're just starting to use these, and when you slap them on there, and we'll discuss the technicals and the move after the fact, it can get lost, the initial setting up there. Before we get to, I wanted to ask you about, because you were talking about a setup in a stock that I know Obi loves, filling in for Sean here, Amazon, and I wanted to be able to get to that name before we run out of time. But is there somewhere, outside of buying your book, which I think everyone should, if you're interested in using anchored VWAP, is there somewhere outside of your feed, maybe you'll post there every now and then on the basics and the nuts and bolts of you using this, and maybe just fire a link if you can for people to be able to get this. I can tell you.
Well, sure. So that book's available on Amazon and Amazon Canada as well. There is physical inventory in Canada. So what I do on a daily basis at alphatrends.net, and we're having a Black Friday sale because that's what you do at this time of year, is where I have a Discord room. I do multiple videos each day and provide guidance on individual stocks as well as the overall market. But, going back to, we don't have to talk necessarily about Amazon, Neil. I wanted to go back instead to the anchor from the election, because it clearly, for the market itself, has been a big level. So for the S&P 500, it had been support, turned resistance quickly, and now we're back above it. One stock that has been, on every very active trader is MSTR. And the anchor right there from the election, we had a little bit of a shakeout there, and then just perfect buying at this anchor until today. The more times support tested, the more likely it is to fail. So now looking at MSTR, we want to see, does this get trapped underneath here? My suspicion is it won't, that it held as support for a little while, but maybe we rally up to the anchor from the peak, and then we start to come back into this zone. So on all of my charts, financials, there's the anchor from the election, the biotechs, there it is from the election, which we just got back above. So that is, it was a huge catalysts for the markets overall. And when we have those big catalysts, we always want to measure the psychology, is what we're doing from those events. So for instance, Amazon, as you just mentioned, just got back above the anchor from the election. And when we back that out to a daily time frame, we had just come down, tested this resistance, held its support, and now Amazon looks like it's on its way again. So I'll be looking for Amazon to ideally maybe pull back a little bit in the morning and then look to be a buyer somewhere, as it gets back above VWAP if we are lucky enough to get a pullback in it tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I love that approach. I know we're running short on time. Before we get you out of here, we have a holiday shortened week, and obviously tomorrow's a full day trading. Of course, it'll be our last chance to talk to you, so I'm going to wish you a happy Thanksgiving for sure, Brian. But going into probably some holiday volume, especially in the second half of tomorrow, and then we get a half day on Friday, which we know sometimes the open can be okay for traders, but let's be real, the afternoon not so much. Is there any change to your approach? I know you're heavily using technicals. Sometimes when you're tape reading and doing like those opening trades, I've noticed that it can still be okay on a half day, especially if you can really see some obvious things going on in the tape. But do you change your approach when you're using your higher time frame technical analysis when you know you're going to get a very low volume day? Do you throw some things out, or do you just stick to the plan normally?
It's more, Neil, that's a great question, because the pre-holiday trade, and this goes for any holiday really, is kind of similar. And what we have a lot of times is that people take vacations, and people will say, well, it's just the junior traders at the desk, which is often actually true, at the big hedge funds and that. And what I think tends to happen is a lot of the smaller stocks, the more speculative names, that if an institution is around, they're going to put a lid on that stock by shorting it. But since they're not there, what you'll see is a lot of these little crazy names really go off the rails, and you get some outsized moves in those without the big pullbacks right away. So my focus is on some of those. So today I had my main focus was on this little stock called Genie, Geni, which is Genius Sports. The daily chart here on the left and the 30-minute time frame on the right. But here's the weekly time frame. So it's one of these ones with this big, long-term base in here. And these are the types of moves that, can really get going. Stocks like, the silly stocks like Kodak, like AMC, like GME, getting going. Those are the types of stocks I think, the highly speculative names are the ones that really get going in this type of environment.
Well, you're not going to see me disagree with you there. I actually spent most of the afternoon trading a $2 stock and was trading I probably had more trades on GME today individually than I'd put on in GME in the last month. So nice. I definitely agree with you on that one. It's always an absolute pleasure to have you, Brian Shannon, over at Alpha Trends. And as I said, if you're interested in anchored VWAP, then I know you can always check out this book. It's a fantastic one. And always a good friend of the show. Can't wait to talk to you again. It's a pleasure. I know Sean usually gets the pleasure, but the pleasure was all mine today. All of our viewers and myself, we all thank you. And of course, wish you a happy Thanksgiving, Brian.
Well, I know you don't celebrate in Canada, but you at least get the day off, so that's good, Neil, and happy Thanksgiving to all the listeners out there.
There we go. Thank you very much. Brian Shannon, CMT from Alpha
Bye.
Trends. Take care, brother. And this is what it's all about, everybody. And we always get a chance, and I say this, if you get the opportunity to learn from anybody who has, whether it's more experience in this particular case, Brian Shannon has more experience technically than I obviously do, and we get a chance to learn from someone like that, we should always listen. Whether you get a chance to learn from someone with a different perspective. I might listen to Joe. Joe hasn't traded on our floor as long, but he'll talk about options, and he knows more than I do. So I like to listen when he's talking, and we always have a lot of fun there. And so let's have some fun tomorrow as well. But just a quick little recap for everybody. CrowdStrike just caught a bid and back to 360. It's now only down a point. So a decent bounce there on CrowdStrike. You're going to see DELL holding closer to the lows. So one not so bad, DELL holding the lows. I've seen a couple of times, and Alfredo's asking about SMCI. Supermicro did not report, but it's not moving in the aftermarket. What I would say is SMCI still in a downward trend. It's trying to make a major break of trend. And I know I favored the long today. I didn't trade SMCI to the long side, despite the fact that we favored long multiple days. I think you're going to see why here. You essentially got to a gap fill key price of 38, and I felt like this was a place to back off of it and look for a consolidation. And if it can break back out of the top after a consolidation, I'll probably start liking SMCI bids and going long again. I know we kind of ignored it for a little bit, but for myself, I know we explain the things that we want to trade every single day and we get into. I've been going long SMCI almost on a daily basis in this bounce. Today I didn't, and the reason for it was it rejecting that 50-period moving average on the daily. I didn't go short, but we looked the other way. You might have noticed that there was a little bit of a warning shot just fired by Fabian to get us all out of here. But you know, before we do it, Darren feeling under the weather, Sean feeling under the weather. I'm not doing the best myself, but I'm fighting through it for you guys. I'm still going to do roll call because we always do a roll call. But we'll always start the roll call off by giving you a reason to put your name in the chat. But you can't put your name in the chat if you're not a subscriber because subs only chat. So make sure you hit the like, make sure you hit the subscribe, get in the chat. Give a big shout out to our guest, Brian Shannon. Give a big shout out to Fabian, who's on the ones and twos. Ramin's not even in right now. We're a little bit short-handed today. Give a big shout out to Rob, who is sitting at the desk as well. I don't know where Randy is, but Rob, one of our IT staff, is sitting there chilling with Fabian. Give a big shout out to Sharif and, of course, Joe, the Bash Brothers, to Sataya on our midday show, to Obi for filling in for Sean for us and doing a fantastic job. Give a big shout out to my main man, Sean and Brendo as well. Give a shout out to Adara, whomever you want to, but make sure you don't forget Bears versus Bulls, the best moderator in the business. Throw some ones in the chat for them. And now we can get a little roll call action. I'm going to do my best. My voice gives out. Take it easy on me. We've got all set in the chat. Joe Finero, Fat Figure, you started off every single day. You're almost always number one, and we got you in the aftermarket show all day long. Keenan in the chat, Stubborn D, Scott Tomlinson as well, Donkey Trader, Bob S, Alan Smith, Jacoby Waters, there you are, Bears versus Bulls, NT5, Jason G, Stubborn D, Daryl Flinch in the chat, what up? Jamie Schenker, we got Isaac Sasaki, Charmine Khan, Sebastian, Jeremy Newman, Diet Soda as well. I don't drink soda anymore. I used to drink a lot of pop. I feel a lot better now that I don't. Get rid of that sugar. Juan Padilla, Phil of the Future, Crypto FOMO, Scott Edwards, Prania in the chat, Michelle Meir, Oliver Katsaros, Ivar in the chat, Elon Must, I like that name, good one. Rossi So Saucy as well. Oh no, just skipped a bunch here. We got Bob S again, we get Yannick Patel, Money Bag Cat, now the voice is gone. Tom Payne in the chat, Adrian TKL. We've got Yannick again. We've got Barn Chips in the chat, Car James, John Canella, Nephew with a capital P up in the house, Vasil Memento. We've got again a couple of repeats, Tilster, and my voice is absolutely dead, guys. I'm going to do my best tomorrow. It's a wild one. The voice is gone. It was an exciting day. We had a lot of fun. And remember, just because it's a holiday shortened week doesn't mean there's not action. You saw the moves and some of the small cap names. GameStop gave it to you. MSTR to the downside. Tesla's flying around. There's always going to be a trading opportunity. And here at Trader TV Live, we're going to be there for you. The market's open. We're here. So don't do anything except get some rest. Maybe check out some Black Friday deals and come right back here, 8:30 in the morning. We're Trader TV Live, and we'll see you tomorrow. Oh.